So I was considering the file that she'll be running.
Oh, that's.
But maybe not that. Oh, he's. Yes.
That's great.
Okay, it's 7 o'clock. I'd like to start today's 20th Board Supervisors meeting. Please stand for the pledge of allegiance.
United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First thing on the agenda is the consent agenda. So have any board comment on the consent agenda? Any public comment?
Make a motion to approve?
Second that. All in favor of approving the consent agenda, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes have it. Okay, moving on to board motions, presentations, and resolutions. First, part of the agenda is a citation of recognition for Ms. Esther Long, and I thank Dr. Torres and Ms. Penny Washington for attending. For those of you who don't know Ms. Esther, wonderful 101-year-old, she just turned 101, correct? Woman who was the last remaining child of the Berwyn school fight. And I think it was about time that township recognized not only her, but the Berwyn school fight as a whole and all those who participated in it. So I'd like to read it, and this will be presented to her at a later date. I know Dr. Torres is trying to arrange a time that we can do that. It says, whereas Easttown Township acknowledges the historic significance of the Berwyn school fight, a courageous civil rights struggle from 1932 to 1934 in which African-American families resisted the enforced segregation of public elementary schools. And whereas during this period, more than 200 students and their families engaged in a sustained boycott, enduring hardship, legal penalties, and social injustice to secure equal educational opportunities and ultimately achieve the reintegration of local schools. And whereas Ms. Esther Long, as one of the youngest participants in this movement, demonstrated extraordinary resilience and sacrifice, foregoing her formal education for nearly 2 years as her family stood in principled opposition to segregation. And whereas Ms. Esther Long is recognized as one of the last surviving witnesses in this defining chapter in local and national civil rights history, and her lived experience continues to educate and inspire present and future generations. And whereas the courage of Ms. Esther Long and her fellow members helped lay the groundwork for broader civil rights advancements and remains a source of enduring pride within the township. Now, therefore, Easttown Township hereby honors Ms. Esther Long for her bravery, perseverance, and unwavering commitment to justice, and extends its deepest gratitude for her role in the advancing equality in education, awarded on this day, 20th of April, 2026, in recognition of a legacy that shall not be forgotten. That will be. Help in getting that all together. And do you want me to hang on?
Yes, hang on to that, and then we'll schedule the day for you to present it to her. We want her daughter to be here as well.
Great.
Betty, who lives in the DC area.
Okay.
Okay.
That's amazing. Awesome.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for attending.
We're very proud of the work that you're doing. This township to honor all of those families and those children. We're so proud of you.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for the school district for
Mhm.
working with us and helping us do that. So we appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay.
Mhm.
We're gonna move along to a ECAC member resignation. This is in recognition of Barry Shagru for his service and commitment to Easttown Township as a member of Easttown Citizens Advisory Committee. So we'd like to thank him for his service and wish him all the best. So I'd like to.
Very good. I'll take that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Andy, do they need to accept the resignation? Traditionally, they have accepted the
I
resignation.
think if you're doing that by acclamation, you can do that if there's consensus. The minutes would show that.
Very good. And then we'll also re-advertise the position.
Right, and I mean, Gary was a relatively recent member, he's a great participant in the ECAC process. Anybody who wants to do that, that'd be great, it would be fantastic to have a person like him on ECAC.
Moving on to our library capital needs.
Yes, we have some representatives from the library. They had a public meeting last week and they'd like to share that with you tonight. Betsy, are you a logical starting?
I'm just gonna kick it off back here if you don't mind. Thank you for having us. I'm honored to be part of the library board. I'm joined here tonight by our other board members, which were taking up almost half the audience, and our library director, Amber Osborne. This process began in 2025. We spent the year preparing an RFP for a needs assessment. We hired a consultant and awarded that contract in November of last year. We got support from the Friends, and by support, I mean dollar support from our friends and our foundation. We began in earnest with MSR through Margaret McKenzie's leadership on our needs assessment committee. And it all started with this postcard we sent out to the community to start our engagement with the community and our staff. MSR, Dagmar Sigler is on to give the presentation. It is what we presented in a public meeting last Wednesday. We have benefited greatly from MSR's experience and knowledge, and we are so much further ahead because of their expertise. I will turn the presentation over to her. If it's okay with you, because she's remote, we're going to take questions at the end just so she can hear, and we'd love to entertain yours first and then any public comments. Thank you. Dagmar.
Thank you, Betsy, for this kind introduction. Can everybody hear me well?
Yes.
Yes.
And well, thank you so much for finding time to visit with us today. We very much appreciate this time and your attention. I'm going to be sharing screen, so please let me know that you can see it. All right. And let's try to advance it. I am here today to just talk you through the process that we went through. Betsy outlined that it took quite a while. And also I would like to share with you what the community asked for and how we approached this. So as you can see here in outline, we were introduced in January, and we had an opportunity to have extensive outreach in February, and then we came back with more reporting back in March. What you see here is one of the many pages of the report that we provided as a draft. We took in account the planning context, including the paths that the township has been planning for and started to execute, including bike paths and sidewalks. This is clearly what you're going to see here, a part of our existing condition assessment in pre-design. So we fully understand that this is the extent of it till we have a chance to speak to you and others regarding this project till the funds get collected. And once that threshold gets crossed, design team, hopefully yes, will work with the library through other phases of design, schematic design through construction documents before any construction can start. So what we conducted is multifaceted outreach to the community through both online survey, drop-in engagement, workshops, and we had different themes around them. We involved everybody from the youngest members of the community, I can see on one of the photos, to community members who are potentially not library goers. We entertained people in YMCA, and we were broadly engaging with community. Through the visioning results, we had a lot of targeted questions, but we also left room for feedback. We got a visual board here of scores, one would say. What are the top priorities for community? Expanding children area definitely was the number one priority, and it came from voices of different ages because everybody see that the future of community are the families. We heard a lot about outdoor community spaces, and those are the green bars on the right-hand side of the screen that you can see. And you can overall understand how engaged is your community, how much they see the need for spaces other than collection. Libraries still will have materials. It's just that libraries of 21st century are really speaking to multimodal literacies. So literacy used to be understood as a way to read and get information from potentially book sources. Now it's extended to online materials. In recent years, literacies are understood very broadly. They basically skill sets that are necessary in changing world, and they come from physical, social, emotional. They really reach all facets of our lives. And libraries are really a forefront of community building by providing that type of programming. So what you see here, it's the same scale of requests or needs identified for community, what spaces are needed to fulfill the best library of the future for the Easttown Library for Berwyn community. And you can see the size of the bubbles are actually representing square footage. So movement studio is something that a lot of people requested, more than library could imagine, and it's a very substantial space. It's a large square footage, similar to large meeting space. So you can kind of see how that varies. We know that there are some needs around restrooms and upgrades, ADA upgrades to the building, and also staff needs space to function better. And here you see how we approach this, because we have those two large requests in square footage. We can actually think about a space that could be very flexible and do a lot of different things. So the combined large meeting and movement studio would be a right answer, potentially for community of your size. And also you can see how the bubbles rose to the top based on the requests or needs identified via community engagement. On the left-hand side, what you see here is an existing plan of the existing building. In a color-coded fashion, we showed you what are the meeting spaces or study spaces, where's children, adult collection, what's a staff area, circulation, it's part of the staff area, it's where the books get sorted. We have small staff in a children area that really is in a substandard conditions right now. As we go forward, I would like to walk you through three options. We will speak the most about full concept option that truly addresses all those needs that you saw marked up in the diagrams before. The tactical expansion is that option that would give us some elbow room, but is really not addressing the quest. And then we have the interior relocation. If we cannot afford expansion, how can we make the best use out of the building that we have currently, knowing that it was built 25 years ago for very different community needs, with library services being very limited comparing to what they are right now and what they're going to be in the future. So what you see here is a overall program comparison. You can see details of these three options, and you can see that full concept is adding 60% of square footage, but it's really maximizing all the potential. I will walk you through that option in detail now. So this is a three-dimensional diagram of the existing building, what you see in a light gray, and in white, that's the suggested volumetric addition. We went through this exercise because we understand how important the architecture of the existing building is to the Easttown Library community. It was built with great hope that it's going to serve next generations, and it has for 25 years. The growth you experience in both the library services and in your community is a really great testament to the hard work that library has done. The architecture of it provides opportunity with the volumetric space. It creates a nice civic space inside of the building. It also provides opportunity to bring daylight to the building, which is really important in library facility. So continuing that geometry seems very logical. And also it offers really wonderful spaces that could be harvested as exterior reading spaces or community spaces facing the sports area in an adjacent field. This is the existing condition. It's a figure ground diagram. We use those often to just kind of understand volumes inside the building. What's in a dark gray is basically enclosed space. As a library going, perhaps all of you entered the Easttown Library and you could see quite a lot of space. All of that white that you see is visible and open. The gray space is staff area, back of the house area, or the meeting spaces that are enclosed. When we look that way on the site plan, we can see clearly how we can expand the program of the library through extension that would expand to a plan south, so down the field, that would provide the same quality of space. It would be easy to navigate. It would, in its geometry, divide spaces in smaller areas that we heard from all of the community. We really appreciate that the scale of the library, that is not one large space, but set of rooms almost. And also it would provide a very clear division of usage. Acoustically, it's going to help us greatly to keep very active children area as far away as we can from adult collection. And that's what that geometry offers. So when we look at the sectional diagram, so it's like if you took a building like a cake and cut it, you can see the logic of the addition basically mimicking the volumetric spaces that are there currently, creating an opportunity not only for a reading courtyard, basically animating the existing space you have for adult reading and contemplation, but also adding another opportunity for children's courtyard that would be immediately accessible from children area. And that's one of the big requests that we heard from everybody, that there's so much shoulder season and so much of wonderful opportunity to use the outdoor library space, and also the need to have a space in between the sports field and the library. A lot of you community members mentioned how wonderful it would be to be able to come to the library and then go to a sports event or vice versa. So what we see in the full concept, and we'll be walking by each area, but I just would like to give you the overview first. We're entering in the same location, the library, but it's much more open and it has a front porch, sense of arrival, place where children can wait to be picked up after school when they have after school programming attend after school programming in the library. We have large meeting space with ability to be a movement studio, dividable, left from the entry, so very easy to come in, leave after hours. We have the same transparency, but really emphasized self-direction within the building. So as you come through the door, you clearly see through the building to the courtyard that would be activated with the opportunity for reading or quiet programming for adults. There is an opportunity to have friends, books sales right in a lobby and make it much more lively retail environment. We heard from a lot of patrons that they love to have a place to meet with friends just for coffee or ability to speak with each other, not feeling like they need to be quiet. And that's what that front lobby offers here. As we come in, it's a similar organization as existing building. Adult collection is to the left with passport services being maintained and with meeting spaces that could serve as Zoom rooms. That's one of the most pressing needs in your community. Reading room is larger, but within the same location as current reading room. We have a teen area and community space in a central node. And imagine teen area being like a coffee shop. Your teens really are studious. They like to be engaged among people, but most of them they like to just study with each other, but quietly, which might be surprising. And also community room defined as a space that could host book clubs, be more lively, be a place for different groups within Berwyn area come and visit. And then we have children area, much more expanded with a story time that is flexible and can host up to 120 people. Right now, you have that many, up to 100 people coming and visiting, and it's really difficult to watch families being crammed between the bookcases, really in substandard conditions. So when we look at space by space, we talked a little bit about the entry. So you can see images on the bottom. All the images are from our library projects from all across the country. And they just reflect slightly the feeling that one would have as entering the building, where natural materials speak to welcoming community that you are, and you have clarity of self-direction here, and you can see how cafe and services are operating. When we move to the next space, large meeting and a movement studio as a flexible space is something that you can see here. And that's a space for all types of events, including yoga exercises, as you see in the middle. That's from the library in Fayetteville, Arkansas. On the right-hand side, you have lectures that are happening in a different space in Missoula, Montana. All of those are built libraries. So this is what's happening in library world right now. When we think about the adult wing, we have both focus rooms, passport services, and meeting spaces. And all of those would also have opportunity for flexible seating outside. Both computer area would be there. You still have need within your community for physical computers for people who don't have them at home or need help and are coming to the library to get that type of attention. And the reading spaces that could serve as book club meeting spaces or places for contemplation. When we move forward, the outdoor courtyard, currently the courtyard is missing the greenery. It had trees that came to end of life. They were more ornamental trees. When we think about repopulating courtyard, shade is really the key here. So creating both opportunities for larger trees growing in that space and or shading devices that could really provide a wonderful space for people. It's really wonderful to see how anxious people were to get out and how many people spoke about outdoors as a way to accommodate for flexible library programming. We keep on moving here. to that teen and community room. What you see here on the bottom right are two images of the same space. You see that second from the right image of the library collection. Actually, there's a seed collection there. It's all books about food and diet, and also it has demonstration kitchen that on the bottom right you see activated. And it's a space that swings as a meeting space, as a library space, as a programming space, as a place for people to throw a birthday party where they bake their own cake. When we think about community room, that type of opportunity could happen there. And there's a teen area as well. And we keep on going here. When we think about Spark Lab, it's a function that already exists in the library, but currently is part of the children area. Unfortunately, that stops a lot of people from participating in activities. And also Spark Lab right now is very tiny. To make it ADA accessible and make it open to all adults, children, and teens, it really needs to come out and become a little larger. And you can see here different variations of a Spark Lab from our former projects, drafting and knitting club from Madison, Wisconsin, or other that you see on the bottom. Now we keep on going here. The children area and storytime area, really, this is the fun and the heart of all of it. People all ages, as I mentioned, highlighted how important that area is, and a lot of your community members mentioned how they moved to East Town Library area and really found the library as a place that created community for them while they had young families. And that place still serves the same needs. So a place that you come for collection that is available there, where you come for children to exercise their large motor skills needs, as well as socialize and take part in programming, while parents get to know each other, is a cornerstone of your community building. And you have such a wonderful staff right now and such a great programming. They really need just a little bit more room to fly. And as we keep on going, my apologies, the slides are lagging a little bit. The play yard that I described earlier would be adjacent from the storytime and children area, allowing for that extra space and allowing for children and families to stay longer, linger. And also, it could be a great space for families that come for sports activities. Overall, last piece here with the site connections. We have a library a little bit on the plinth, and there's not an AD access from the front of the library to the back of the library currently. Additionally, if somebody wanted to walk down to the field, there's not a safe path for them right now. We looking at providing that through what we call here amphitheater, but basically it's a set of ADA ramps and seating that could serve both as a viewing, kind of a seating area for the sports field, as well as a place where you could have extended lunch or have programs for children where they could are together and are being shown or shared book or story. That brings us to the overall view here at that full concept where we have more staff area, we have a much more outdoor space, we have the growth within Sparks Lab, large meeting spaces. That really is a biggest need that is identified, as well as children area, because there's such a great need for sharing and not many places to do so. Of course, the meeting and large and small meeting rooms are part of that as well. The second option is tactical expansion. I'm very happy to take all the questions and go back to the slides as soon as I'm done, I promise. The tactical expansion basically is a strategic addition, set of strategic additions in places where it makes sense from the existing geometry standpoint of view of the building, and it's the least impact both on the building and the cost of the building. So here we go with the existing building. we're looking at replacement of the small ends of the library with much larger volumes, resolving some issues that are both technical with the way the additions were or the ends were constructed, and also accessibility issues. We have a lot of square footage allowing for ramp and stairs to go to the adult reading room right now. It could be replaced, but much better used square footage on one level. It still is addressing the new expanded entry and a meeting space. So when we look at that overall building footprint, you can see it's much smaller. It's much closer to the existing library. The adult collection stays within the footprint of current collection. We have the staff area that it's reconfigured. The friends area is really the only space in that end that changes from the existing condition by bringing books for public sales out into the public area now. We have large meeting room that is just slightly expanded with opportunity to divide into two rooms, one larger space. Sparks Library gets repositioned and slightly enlarged. It's 240%. It looks impressive, but it's such a small room. It's probably not big enough in that option. Storytime expands a little bit by just that addition that we're providing. Children area really stays very similar in its footprint. And that's all what we can offer. We have 28% of total interior area reconfigured here, but it's mostly because of all the elbow room that we're getting on all sides of the building. And the last is the interior relocation. So if we have no funds to add anything, but the building is at a place where we need to refresh systems, and we really need to address some of the ADA issues that we observed, we will need to relocate. And it can just work a little better to do so. So here's the existing layout that you see right now. And here is the readjusted layout where we maximizing efficiency with staff area. We're taking back some of the public space that right now one of the circulation desks is giving it back to the community in a sense. We're removing a confinement around storytime area to allow it to flex with an existing square footage space. So what we end up getting is a little bit more square footage in a children area and a teen area because of the relocation. Really, adult collection is the one that suffers here. And we hear from all the users that actually people are looking forward to using library more as they age. So that's probably not the best thing that we're doing, but that's what we can do within the confinement of the footprint. And the staff area that already is not the most generous is becoming a little bit smaller, but we're trying to maximize efficiency here. The outdoor spaces are really the spaces that we are addressing in that last option the most. So here's back to the same slide with a little bit more understanding now how we're proceeding from the existing option through relocation, a tactical expansion to full concept that truly addresses the need of your community. And you can see how those elements stack, kind of building element by building element, understanding that full concept is really getting us everything that community is asking for. Here they are, all three together with the existing option. And this is the slide that probably is the most detailed and is the one that you all waited for. It's showing us each option with the existing square footage demolition, area of renovation, new construction, and net gain. Also, we have probable cost here. One thing to note, we haven't included cost of land. With a full concept, we understand that we would need to, the next step would be to start conversations with both you and school district about more land, because clearly that full concept cannot fit on the existing plot. And depending on the parking requirements that we would need to finalize with you, that would be 1 to 2 acres, depending how tight we plan the parking. So we fully are aware of that, and I just wanted to be transparent. The probable cost, though, includes all of the construction costs, all of the soft costs, which are all the fees for services that we can imagine, all the moving costs that we know of right now. Also, it covers CM fees and any other fees that we could identify. There's a very detailed list of them. It includes all the furniture and all the equipment, and that's not a small feat in a library because we have a lot of steel shelving that became really expensive. Our shelves right now in existing library are way too tall. They not ADA accessible, and they are not the way to go forward with the library. Also, the library furniture is at the end of its life, so the full upgrade is required whenever it's time for the renovation. We work with White and Turner, local company that many of you might be aware of, to provide a very detailed cost estimate at that concept level to the library, and it's being reviewed right now by the library board. We submitted as a draft. I'm happy to answer questions about that as well, but I'm sure you will have questions beyond that as well. So you can just see that probable costs vary from roughly 20,400,000 to 9,800,000, depending which option we consider. And all of that costs will be available for you to review once the library board has a chance to approve final draft. Thank you so much.
Mara, did you say that the number one full concept didn't have enough parking spaces at the moment?
The full concept basically requires going outside of the boundary of the library plot to fully execute it. It's both the addition itself and the parking that will be needed or needs to be relocated that would push that boundary. Right now, we know that all the parking is being used by the patrons. If we extend the footprint, even if the township is not requiring more parking stalls, we would advise that more parking is provided because there will be a lot of excitement if that full concept can be realized. And we usually see a huge spike in library usage, which is very difficult to imagine because your library is so loved and you have such a high participation from both community patrons who come for programming and materials being circulated are at such a high level. It's really hard to imagine how it can be loved more, but we can guarantee you that if this renovation of any scope goes through, the library will be even more used and there will be more people coming.
Can I just say two things? One, I appreciate everybody sitting through, and I know this is a lot of information, but as we promised a year ago, we'll keep you informed. There are a couple of things here that we just need you to consider for us. We don't know how much we can raise, and we are about to embark on a feasibility study through the foundation. So that is one thing on our list to do because we know we need something. Option number 3, in my mind, just kind of corrects what we didn't know 20 years ago. That's the one that doesn't move any walls. The middle concept to me is viable and worth doing because we can correct some immediate problems. And obviously the full concept is one that prepares us much further out in the future. Obviously costs change and everything changes as we get bigger. We also need you all to understand and bless us starting to have the conversations with the school district. Because unless we have any sort of agreement, and we don't know whether it be a swap, we don't know whether we have to purchase, we don't even know if they're open to giving us or getting us land, and we need about an acre to the south. We can do with a little less, but that's probably what the ask should be to accommodate parking and everything else we're going to need. So we need you to do that. I don't know what they're going to say. And as I said at a public meeting last Wednesday, if they say no, we move on and we figure something out. I do not want any sort of conflict between school district and township. That's not what we're here for. But we can certainly make our pitch and why we need it. We had nothing to talk to them about before we saw this needs assessment. We can't go up, Dagmara answered that question at our meeting last week because the structure of the building doesn't support it, and it would be quite costly to do so, as well as we almost need 2 staffs to monitor the upstairs and the downstairs. So if we have to rethink it, we'll rethink it, but that's why they moved away from a 2-story building. We also need you to start to think about what you can do for us in terms of any borrowings and what that debt service would be and when it can fit into your budget. You have been so supportive. You give us almost $1 million every year to run our operation. And I think we've been really good stewards of it. And I think as a result, this has been very much a gem of the community, which we're all very proud of. When we provided the comp plan, the ROSERP, and the sidewalk study, parking study, all roads led to the library. It was very interesting how many times it came up. So it's been on everybody's radar, not only when we built this, but since then. So those are the three things we're here to kind of ask or get some feedback on, certainly any other questions, but we are in the starting phases of this. We feel we have great data. We feel that they have reflected exactly what the community and our staff has felt about the library, and we want to improve that for the next generation. So thank you. Thank you, Dagmara.
Thank
I don't
you.
know if there'll be any more questions, but I'll turn it back over to Sean and Susan and Alex and Mike.
Okay, number one, do we have any statistics on how many square feet the community has? Like we have 10,000 people. Is it 10 square feet per person in libraries, 1 square foot? What would be it? Do we know?
I don't know based on square footage, but I know based on community size. The only library in Chester County that's used more than ours is True Different, and they're 4 times the population of us.
Right, but yeah.
Okay, 40,000. I thought they're 40,000. Whatever.
Well, yeah.
Only
They're
30
bigger.
times is their.
I was just wondering, did that come up in the study at all?
Yes,
Right.
sure she has data. Dagmara, any comments on ratio between population and square footage needed in a library?
So thank you for that question. There is a data available that we, if needed, we can share with you national data. But I would say that working with you, you are an exception. So that data won't fit well. First of all, you bringing community members from bigger area of Berwyn. People drive to participate in East Town Library programming. Second of all, your statistics go through the roof. And I think just even mentioning that the only other library that is more busy is in a community that is 4 times bigger is a true indicator of how engaged people are, both in usage of materials, usage of a space, and participation in the programming that you're providing. And observing your library, day in your library, or multiple visits now in your library, it is truly a testament to both the people who work within the library, but also people who built the library through friends of the library or the library board or other arms around the library. So I am happy to follow up with those statistics, but you're really not fitting them. Your community is way more intellectual, it's way more driven, very much more ambitious. And anecdotally, when we met for the first time, everybody said that your youth is really studious and they only study in a library, and that's all what they need from the teen area. And that sounded unlikely because that's not what we see across the country. And then verifying it with meeting with the youth, watching everybody in a library, talking to different groups of people, it's true. Your youth wants to study. I wouldn't recommend you to have a gaming area, as we do in a lot of other communities, where gaming is a way to learn skills for labor market. You're actually, teens want to be studying and maybe talking a little bit in a quiet voice.
Which is a great pitch to the school district.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt.
And,
Anything else?
yes, do we have any estimate of the additional operating costs that this will bring, like for heating, cooling, staff, any of that kind of stuff?
I don't think Dagmar, we didn't venture down that route yet.
We did not get that far. We definitely can tell you what to plan for, but a lot of it will come in schematic design when actual systems are going to be selected, because that's, as you know, it's an initial investment versus the return on investment question. And we always kind of, as far as the operational costs from staff perspective, probably Amber would be the best equipped to do so. I think that on our end, what we can guarantee is that geometry of the addition, the layout of the library would make it easier to take care of by fewer people. because it's all about visibility. It's self-directed. We're planning on providing or advising library to provide self-checkout places where people can just do themselves some work and use staff to socialize or have more detailed questions. There will be probably need for more people because there will be bigger interest in programming and more spaces for programming, but that could be also resolved with partnering with other organizations within your area, nonprofits. We see that very often, that's what happens, that because you have more space, now you can invite a nonprofit that runs evening programming, and that doesn't increase need on library staff.
So I know we've taken a lot of time, and I know it's new news to you, but I guess the first step, we just like some direction. Is it okay to start to talk to the school district? We can't certainly ask you about funding. You have a lot to digest. We have a lot more to digest, and you've never indicated that you're not supporters of our library. We're not there yet, and neither are you, but I know we will be there soon.
I don't think there's any opposition to talking to the school district, because I think you need to know right away whether if they're interested or they're not interested, and then that changes our discussion, I think, at that point.
Even with the current layout, it'd be nice to have more space.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
I think the idea of a swap that you brought up was really interesting. I don't know how viable that is or what the school district would be interested in.
What are
pursuing.
we swapping?
I mean, like the current property that is owned by the library.
Yeah.
And the current property that is owned by the school district, if it could be kind of swapped. So we have a greenfield construction site potentially. So would it be possible, because I'm looking at the numbers, I'm looking at, redoing an existing building doesn't necessarily fit the demand that we currently have. We just went through this exact process from a 1998 building that we're currently sitting in.
Yep.
That we're now choosing to do greenfield construction
Yep.
right across the street. And it's a lot more cost effective per dollar for the square footage that's being added in there. So if, we already have this full concept option that requires additional land. If there's any sort of ability for us to acquire that land or swap whatever it is with the school district, what's the viability of a greenfield construction? How much would it cost to build something like this from scratch? Would you even use the same layout? Would it be a different layout? Higher square footage, less square footage, different utilization, whatever that looks like. How would that change things? And what would your cost associated with that be? I understand it's all very preliminary, but I think it's interesting to also pursue that. Just to know what the cost and the viability of it would be from a school district standpoint. If they still need the same amount of land, maybe we end up giving up the portion that the library is currently on, return that, demolish it, return it to greenfield, and you have a new library that's in a different spot, so you can swap plots, something like that. Complicated, but I don't think it would be some, impossible. And maybe that helps keep a, contiguous plot that the school district is interested in. Just kind of spitballing ideas, but I feel like we want to explore that in the concept base.
If we can part of it, down by the Johnson part, we could probably throw something down there and maybe use less space, a little more space.
The two fields that are a little bit less utilized over there. I'm completely throwing ideas out there, but I would be interested in. So yes, I would like you guys to talk to them personally.
Would it be okay if we took Dawn with us? So I don't get anybody,
That'll be fun.
so we can hear back, and then we'll pull you all. There's an opportunity.
When you're talking to the school district, is it the administration or the school board?
Well, I have to figure that out, Michael. We have talked to Sue Tooby, the school board president, and we've talked to Rich Goose, the superintendent. I don't know whether our first visit is to the facilities committee, and then they'll deputize somebody to talk to us further, or whether we just go ask Sue and Rich if they would sit down with us. So to be determined, but if we have the green light, we will try to figure out where we're going to get the answer.
The reason why I bring this up is because, for the tactical expansion for 15 million or thereabouts, I feel like if we had to do greenfield construction, brand new empty plot of land, and you had $15 million to build something, I feel like we could get a lot more in square footage of value compared to what we could get. If this is all we can do, okay, let's consider it. But I just feel like for spending $15 million, we could get something that would serve the community a lot more if we have some of the land and the plots to kind of play around with that.
If I may just add that those numbers are not construction costs. This is a total project cost. So that's something to just be very mindful about, because that adds a lot of soft costs that are very high in the case of a library. So as library shares the details, White and Turner really cost estimated line by line. So I wouldn't want us to walk out of that meeting thinking that it's construction costs only.
Fair, but what's driving up that cost? Is it a lot of interior fit out, a lot of equipment, you know, that sort of thing?
Honestly, it's just current construction costs. You know, it used to be that you could do a TI improvement, tenant improvement for, you know, $75, and now it costs $75 to get a contractor on site. So it's just, and I know that you're right now in the midst of project, so you have real life data. I just want to make sure that we all understanding it's a total project cost, which is a little better picture. And everything you said, it's spot on. It's a good exercise to do.
Yeah, understood. No, we have good data, and I think we're realistic in terms of what the costs are.
Yeah, of course.
But just through the firehouse, we're doing the,
Yeah.
administration and police building, and, evaluating this as an option. I think we're realistic about what the costs are. It just seems like we'd be more efficient with something.
That works out to $800 a square foot, I think we would there.
I think anytime you're renovating existing space, it's more expensive. So that's why I would be interested in pursuing the possibility of that first.
Okay.
And then find out what the constraints are, and then we go from there. Again, that's my opinion. You guys tell me what you think, if it's any different.
That's kind of a new wrinkle for us. We had not really thought about that, and appreciate your expertise and the knowledge of such an arrangement. We just want to get to talk to the school district to see what they, by swap, I meant something like, should they ever need the land there for school, we would consider somehow letting them use that as the playground of the new school or the new center.
I figure they don't want to give up, land that they own. So if we buy a part of theirs and we sell them ours, is it net zero for them and they're fine with that? So I'd be curious.
We'll go start the conversation, but again, if you can just keep on your radar that at some point we will come back for some debt service requests or borrowing, and all of your support in the future. Thank you. Thank you, Dagmara.
Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay. Any other public comment on that? Thank you. Thank you, all library.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
All right, moving on to the historic property survey RFP award. John's gonna lead on.
Sure, at the last historic commission meeting, your commission interviewed for, so taking a step back, sorry. Your RP ended up getting 15 qualified candidates, candidate firms for the historic property inspection level survey, historic resource sources in the township. At the last HC meeting, they interviewed their top 4 candidates and came away with one that they felt was a clear winner. And then we had further negotiations, which is why we weren't able to include the whole package, but we did send that along in the package to the board. So tonight the historic commission was recommending the award go to JMT.
And John, you had said that you felt strongly that this company was
It was a very strong presentation. JMT is a very large firm. Alex, you've probably worked with them there. And so one of the things that surprised us when the RFPs were coming in, we weren't expecting large engineering firms necessarily, but they all have really large historic divisions, because these are components of large scale construction projects. So they have their in-house historians and are able to assemble teams for this. And it's a sort of a standard exercise for a lot of these large engineering.
they said how long the process is.
So the RFP dictated that they deliver by October. Everything completes this fiscal year for the sake of your budget. We delayed a few weeks since we had 15 applications. We delayed the interviews until the April meeting. We were hoping to do them in March when we were expecting a smaller amount of applications to sort through. So, but each of the applications that we interviewed mentioned they could still complete it by the October deadline.
All right. Is there any board comment?
Sounds like they won't be on site in like a couple of days.
So they're based out of Philadelphia. Well, the group that's doing it is out of the Philadelphia office.
So what's the travel for?
From the Philadelphia office, I think.
But it says lodging and airfare.
That's as neat.
If applicable.
Yeah, if applicable.
Oh.
So, not their entire team is based out of Philadelphia necessarily, so.
Okay.
Um,
Okay, so there's a couple people they may fly in,
Yeah.
experts in certain areas.
but not the
Most
daily
of
group,
them.
yeah. The ones that were boots on the ground are based out of the Philly office, is how they represented it.
Right, I was worried because it seems like you gotta be here to see this stuff.
For sure, yeah, and they all, none of the final four, were stating that this was a from the desk. Process, so all of them understood that it was, had to be you had to do in-person work and there's only so many properties you can visit in a day, so there was a significant amount of time they were expecting in the township. A lot of lead up time, obviously, in the office to assemble everything.
Any other board comment? Public comment? No. Okay, so make a motion to award the town township inspection level historic resource survey to JMT, 72,615.46, by say.
I'll second.
Do we budget for this?
Thank you.
Under budget.
Yes. All in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, nice have it.
Thank you.
No. Okay, moving on to authorization to advertise for Berwyn U-shaped corridor sidewalk project.
So Colleen's gonna give us a little snapshot of this one.
Sure. So a couple years ago, Easttown Township was awarded a grant for construction of sidewalk along Waterloo Avenue, First Avenue and Bridge Avenue, known as the U-shaped corridor sidewalk project. We have coordinated with the township engineer who has finalized the plans. They've been submitted to PennDOT. We are on the last submission to PennDOT, pretty close to getting the approved HOP permit for the sidewalk along Waterloo. We still have, township staff still has work to do coordinating with the residents along First Avenue and Bridge Avenue, but the majority of the work is complete. And we believe we'll be ready to advertise the specifications and plans within the next couple weeks prior to the May meeting. So we are requesting authorization to advertise the project in the daily local news and put it up for bid on PennDOT.
Any board comment?
Did we cut out pieces we don't have easements for?
Yeah, so they're gonna stay in the plan until that's resolved, is that?
Yeah, we're gonna keep everything in the plan until we get a hard no, either from the property owner or PennDOT.
Yeah, so there's two pieces where there's difficulty getting easements from the property owners.
Mhm.
So we're still talking to one of them on your behalf. And then, but it'll be advertised, and then when we get later on, when we have a little more firmness to it, we'll identify what we think is the best solution, even if it means just leaving out the small sections and turning them into projects for a later date, meaning,
You'll advertise with those pieces in and then say later, we're taking them out.
yeah, something, that's the, or.
Yeah, they're small enough that
Yeah.
you can pivot that way.
And
So-
unless we, like, if it gets resolved between now and then, we'll advertise it that way, but
Mhm.
the idea is we're still pressing at it, and the Alamo is we just advertise it and then we pull back a tiny piece of it.
The idea being it's easier to do a change order and remain compliant with the bid law if you're reducing the scope of the project versus expanding.
We have to tell them in the packet that these pieces might get pulled down.
We'll address that as it needs to be addressed,
Yeah,
exactly how, I don't know.
We're gonna bid it as a unit cost, so we'll have a unit cost for each line item, so we'll just reduce. It will either reduce the linear footage of curb or, whatever piece of, sidewalk that's going in, or it will increase minimally. But it can be a field change, it wouldn't be anything significant.
Thanks.
Any other board comment? Any public comment? Okay, so So, Andy, a motion to authorize to advertise?
Yes.
Okay, motion to authorization to advertise for the Berwyn U-shaped corridor sidewalk project. Do I have a second? Second. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes have it. Moving on to the Cartway.
Yeah, Colleen will lead us through that, and she's also, there's some people here who will assist you, property owner. And then you have the engineer online, correct, Colleen?
All consultants are online, yeah, that's correct. So several months ago, a subdivision land development application was provided to the township to subdivide a little over 2-acre lot into two 1-acre lots along the Cartway, which is a private road in Easttown Township. The applicant provided plans that were reviewed by the township consultants. The consultants provided review letters. They presented to the planning commission in March and came back in April, polishing the plans off and satisfying more of the comments of the consultants. The planning commission recommended award at their April 7th meeting with I think 4 or 5 waiver requests and a couple additional conditions in their letter that was provided. The applicant and their attorney is here to describe the project and answer any questions.
Good evening. My name's Dennis Dunn. I represent the Cartway. It's okay if I sit here? Sure. Are we putting the plans up there?
Yeah, I'm gonna get the plans up.
So as Colleen described, we've got a 2.217 acre piece of property on a private road, private lane off of Berwyn Paoli Road. The house has on it right now, I guess it doesn't show
And do you want the?
existing condition. So it's got a house on it and a pool. And the plan is to, and it's circular driveway. And there's the house and I guess that's the pool. I don't read these things quite so well. Oh, it's over here?
Yes.
Okay, all right, where it says pool, obviously. All right, so, the plan is to take out the pool, take out the house. It's got a number of trees on the property as well, 59 to be more precise according to the inventory. And, the subdivision is going to be set up so that we preserve the circular driveway for one of the houses.
People, the existing home? Or, I mean.
The proposed.
Proposed, yeah. So you preserve the circular driveway for the house on the left, put another driveway next to it for the house on the right. And build two, we're going to be, we believe, really nice houses. We've reviewed this at 2 meetings with the planning commission. We had a lot of ordinance interpretation questions. And the planning commission solicitor, Mr. Este, answered those for us just before our last planning commission meeting. And one of the questions was whether or not in this context, your ordinance is written in such a way that when you have 2 residences like this, bordering a residence, there's no buffering requirements on the lot itself. That was one of the questions we had. And the other question was, do we have to do any tree replacement? And if so, how many? And we're going to go ahead with his opinions. From my point of view, I didn't quite agree with him, but it really doesn't really matter because the neighbors who were involved in this process at the time wanted a fair amount of buffering. And we're more than willing and happy to work with them on that. So we're just replacing a whole bunch of trees. A lot of these trees are dead, diseased, and invasive. Under your ordinance, that's not supposed to be something that you count when you're looking at tree replacement or tree preservation issues, but they're being counted anyway. So the planning commission, when they looked at it, recommended approval with 2 conditions. The one thing I want to point out here is that this private lane here, it's what, 12 feet wide? As is. The neighbors don't want that changed. my clients met with the neighbors, both outside of the context of the planning commission meeting and talked with them here in the planning commission meeting. When we were here, and there's no sidewalks or curbing in this area. And nobody along here wants this. In fact, the neighbors were pretty insistent. They don't want curbing, they don't want sidewalks. They want it to remain very private. They don't even like the idea that people tend to keep pulling in here, even though it's just a private driveway essentially. So 4 houses now will be private when this is done. And we don't want to put a widening in because it wouldn't make sense to put it just here and not everywhere else. And of course, we don't want to put the curbing or the other stuff in because that would change the whole character of the neighborhood. And the planning commission was okay with that. We got a review letter from the township's traffic engineer. He was agreeable to that waiver, and he did not object to it. So then one of the questions was, if we don't do curves and don't do sidewalks, do we need a waiver? Apparently we do. We don't need a waiver for not widening because there's no road standard for a private road. So that just doesn't have to be done. And the developer has agreed to pay the cost that's prescribed in your yearly resolution for what it is to compensate the township for the road widening, not the road widening, for the curves and the sidewalk. I forget what the number comes to. It's around $40,000 if I remember correctly. I don't know if you want to hear all the details about the trees, but the bottom line is,
I do.
you do? Okay. So there's 59 trees. About half of those are invasive, diseased, or dead. Of the 31 that are on the property that are not just viable, most of them not diseased and not invasive, the plan is to remove 11 of the 31 that are good trees, basically. And of the total of 59, there are 4 that are dead. So the total remove would be 30. And what we're doing is we're replacing them with, Brian, you know?
How many?
Yeah, how many trees are replacing them with?
I don't remember the exact amount, but it's supposed to be whatever it is that allows us not more than 25%. And then during the planning commission meeting, we had agreed to add an additional 7 to that number. And then if you look at the middle of the plan between the 2 houses, there's 5 trees shown there between the 2 driveways. The planning commission had asked us to take those 5 and spread those along the border. So additionally, from the plan that you're looking at now, there would be an additional 12 trees along the border. 5 would be the 5 that you're seeing in the middle that would go along the border, and then an additional 7 more. And that would get us even further below the 25% that the ordinance requires.
Right.
And that's a mix of evergreens, which allows a 50% number, and then deciduous, which is a 1-for-1 trade. So you'll see actually more trees being provided than we're taking away because the evergreens don't account for a 1-to-1 trade-off.
So it's not 25% of the 59 tree number. What was the number? 53, 59?
No, it is. So we're
That's
yeah, that's the number that we have to map. We're only allowed to take 25% of that number down.
Okay.
We're taking more than that down, but we're going to replace back to that 25 plus an additional 7.
Okay. So it would be, what's that? 15 trees that you're allowed to take down
Yeah.
to meet the 25%.
Yeah.
And then you're putting back an additional 7.
Yeah. So
Okay.
Yep.
So net of everything, it's minus 8 trees or thereabouts.
Something like that. Yeah.
Okay.
If I can just ask a question, so the planning commission letter was a little bit generic. They said the applicant shall supplement existing vegetation along the side and rear perimeter of the new lots with new evergreen trees to provide screening for the adjacent properties. Is that the 7 trees you're talking about?
Yeah.
right. The
moving those-
discussion was that add 7 in addition to all these new ones you see here, and then take these 5 and move them around the perimeter. And I think it's mostly this way, right?
Yeah. Well, I guess we'll figure that out. But the idea was to provide more buffer than it was shown, and those 5 were seen by the planning commission. As not as important between the houses as they were to be along the border for buffer.
So how many of those are deciduous?
We thought we would put more pines in for all 12 of those. As it provides a better buffer screening than a deciduous one. So we thought we would do all 12 as a pine.
So there are deciduous trees that you're putting in.
What's that?
There are deciduous
Yeah,
trees that you're
You
putting
can
in.
see there are deciduous trees, but there are trees, but the 7 that we would add, the 5 that are there are arborvitaes. So we would not do arborvitaes, we would just do 12 pines along the border of the property lines.
All right, so
Provide more buffer.
there are 7. That is that perimeter between the new lots. I'm just trying to figure out in a written
Do you mind if I-
decision, sure.
Yeah.
How to describe the additional 5.
Sure. So these 5 here in the middle would essentially not be here. We would spread those 5 across the board of the property line. Depending on how between our engineer and the landscape engineer for the township sees best fit. And then we would add, so that 5 and then another 7 more. And my thought was to make those pines or evergreens. That way, because pines or evergreens add more of a buffer. Than a deciduous one.
You do eat them though.
What's that?
Deer do eat them. That's a pretty
Yeah,
deer place.
so, but I would have that conversation between the engineers. Whatever that 12 is, the 7 plus 5. I just figured that 12 would be better as pines for buffering, because that was what was requested, mainly from the neighbors. Because we're already above the 25% of what we have to provide. The buffering was, for the benefit of the neighbors' request.
So seven on the perimeter and then 5 are essentially between the 2 new houses.
Right, but these will go away and then.
They're not gonna be there.
They're not gonna be here.
Okay, they're all gonna be perimeter.
Yeah.
All 12.
Yeah, so all we had to do was the planning commission decided that these, they didn't like these here, they wanted them spread. And then we would add 7 more for a total of 12 more along the border. Does that make sense?
I think so. So compared to the planning commission's generic comment, when they talk about new evergreen trees, you're talking about 12 new evergreen trees to be shown on the perimeter
Yes,
of the new lots.
Yeah.
And that would be to the satisfaction of Tom Committa's office.
yeah, because there's a fence line here, that's a privacy fence, it's about 6 feet high, so that's why we kind of spread them more this direction. But if they felt that it needed to be a little bit more here, we could put them here, it doesn't really matter to us, it's whatever's
So-
best.
But the existing house that is there now, Ron,
Sir, you are.
I'm sorry, I'm Tom Dunn, I'm one of the owners of the property. The existing house that is there now where the U-shaped driveway is where that first house is going. So there's already no trees there. So all we're doing is adding a second house behind that and giving them more privacy in the front per the
Yeah,
homeowner.
this is mainly.
Yeah, that's already there.
Area, most of the trees that we're removing in our existing cluster here. And most of those are as Dennis has said, they are mainly invasive and diseased. Because they're a Norway maple, I believe, and in PA, that's considered an invasive tree. But that didn't matter. The point was that there was 59 in the count. We were only permitted to do 25%, and then we were replacing back up to 25%. Plus the additional 7, because these 5 included in that 25% count.
So
We're just taking them from here and spreading them.
so they're all gonna be pines.
Well, we can work that out, but in the letter it said evergreens, so we were thinking evergreens.
So this says 56 trees on the property, 25% or 14 trees can be removed by right. Another 25% can be removed subject to supervisor approval. How many trees are being removed, regardless of what's being replaced and added new? How many are being removed?
What's the
30 are total being removed.
30 total?
All right, so we're going from 56 down to 26.
Now you're going from 59.
I'm
Yeah.
reading the letter, it just says there's
Well,
56
the
trees.
letter's incorrect about the number of trees.
So it's 59.
The plan showed inventory of 59,
Okay, so 59 trees,
Yeah.
30 are being removed.
total of 30, yes.
Okay, so
16 plus or 15 plus 7.
okay, so removing about half the trees and then putting back another 25%. So
And then plus a little over 25 back to the 25% mark.
Because the trees being removed are premature, and we're putting back smaller trees.
That's the concern.
Yeah.
But the ordinance requires 2.5 inch for deciduous, and I think it's like 6 to 8 foot pines. So that's what we would be putting back where the ordinance requires us.
6 to 8 foot tall.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense to me. Well, the ordinance says it or not, it's a a bad thing for stormwater management. Because you've got these giant trees that are sucking up water and you're replacing with little trees, and so there's more water flow. Right, and it's just reality.
Yeah, but
Okay.
eventually those trees will mature and.
Yeah, but we get the complaints before eventually. We get the people coming in here saying, my property is covered with water, you let them build this thing, and that's why. We get that before eventually.
Okay, I just know that we're just providing what the ordinance says.
I get that the ordinance doesn't necessarily work.
Okay.
Just real quick, if it's okay with the board, back to planning commission recommendation. So they talk about these perimeter trees. You're saying you're proposing 12 additional perimeter trees, evergreens.
Yes.
And they also mention Tom Comita's review letter, and I believe Tom's online if we need him. But the planning commission says, and I think Tom agrees in his latest review letter, that it's not a wooded lot or a woodland.
Correct.
Because, in large part because of those non-viable trees. But for the 25%, and I think maybe this is what Alex is asking, for the 25% standard, the planning commission still recommends a condition that if you're removing more than 25% of the existing trees, you're gonna get board approval. Are you asking, do you need board approval for more than 25% of the trees overall? I think Tom Estes' memo says the 25% standard, it doesn't matter whether they're viable or non-viable, I think is what his memo says.
That's what the memo says, yes.
So I just want to know if you're asking for the board approval for the removal of more than 25%, but that's because you're planting how many percentage wise? I'm trying to figure out how that would be a condition of what the planning commission is trying to achieve, if it's acceptable to the board.
If the number is 25%, and that's, I think, it depends on how you round up or down, it's either 14 or 15 trees.
19 and 7
Yes,
is 26, right?
yes.
Plus you're putting in street trees too.
Well, that's in that count though.
No. All these black dots are new trees, right?
Yeah, so are these.
Yeah, but you count here, there's 19 total of these new black dots. You're adding 7 to get to 26, and then you've got these here.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, plus 7.
So you're putting 40 new trees in.
Yes. Because
And you're only removing 30.
right, because you only get a 50% count on replacement of an evergreen.
So in terms of what you were proposing, if the 25% standard applies for replacement, and the planning commission and their solicitor says it does, you're asking the board to allow that conditioned upon of the 59 existing trees, 30 will be removed, but 40 new trees will be installed
Yes.
in accordance with the plan and subject to Tom Comita's approval of the final landscape plan.
Is that correct?
Right,
Yes.
right. And this plan doesn't show 7 of those trees because we didn't revise it after the last planning commission meeting. It's got to be re-revised to move those 5 out from between the houses and spread everything around.
So when you're talking about the 12 perimeter trees, that's part of the 40 new?
Yes,
Correct.
because that includes those 5 plus the 7 that I added to the count.
I'm just trying to figure out how to clearly create language that everybody understands what you're proposing.
You are planting 40 trees though, right? 40 trees?
Yes.
40 trees are gone.
My hesitancy about that though is that we're removing Norway maple. I do not like them, but they are shade trees. And replacing them potentially with evergreen arborvitaes that are definitely not shade trees. And one of the problems that we've had in the township and that we're trying to do is reestablish shade trees, particularly along corridors. So the hesitancy that I have is allowing this plan and conditional approval by just removing 30 shade trees, and even though we're approving, adding 40 more evergreens or something, they don't provide the same level of canopy protection.
There's 12 shade trees going in there as far as that planting.
So there are deciduous shade trees.
Yeah, that's what these
12 shade trees.
1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13.
13. And they'll be shade trees, they won't be.
Yeah,
cherry or-
red buds, does that sound?
Those are not shade trees.
I know there's another one in here too, but that was what was requested of the neighbors, they wanted that.
Not a shade tree.
Can we?
You could probably pull a red bud out of the ground by hand.
Can we zoom in on this piece right? Thank you. Let's see, the deciduous are maples and eastern redbuds. And there's 5 maples and 8 eastern redbuds, and the reason we went with the redbuds was because that's what the neighbors had requested.
I love red buds. They're definitely not shade trees though. So you have 5 maples. So
What if we just change it?
Do 5 oaks, 5 maples, 5 oaks,
Sure.
or whatever.
I mean, listen, I'm not an expert in this stuff. I'm not going to say this is the right or wrong mix. All I'm saying is one of the concerns that we have as a township and as a board is the removal of shade trees along pretty much everywhere along here. So we want to try and preserve that as much as possible.
We'd be willing to
Yeah, we'll do.
to go down on the evergreens, put in like for 2 evergreens, 1 deciduous shade tree, if that was, to your liking. One of the reason we went with more evergreens was because the neighbors asked for
buffer.
Privacy.
for buffers.
I get it.
Yeah.
It has to be reasonable when we want to try and preserve the shade tree, canopy as much as possible. So I don't know if that's a comment to our engineers or, Tom Committa or the rest of the board, but it's kind of how I feel about it. I don't know the exact mix. I'm not gonna pretend to dictate it's gotta be this or that, but I think that's kind of the goals that we're trying to meet here.
There's plenty of shade trees to choose from.
Okay, so
So take out the red buds.
so no red buds, just replace that 8 for a shade tree.
I mean, I love red buds. I'm not gonna say no red buds, but it just work with us would be my.
We don't think you're willing to have them.
Yeah, I like the best one.
Get a red buds.
So no red buds, replace those 8 with shade tree. That would be fine by us.
If the board would like, I'm just trying to craft the potential parameters as we move along. I think, am I right that you're saying that if you were to approve the more than 25% tree removal, which is the standard we're talking about, that would be subject to the fact that there are 59 existing trees, 30 will be removed, 40 new will be planted for a total of 69 trees, but the final type and placement would be subject to the approval of Tom Committa's office. Is that? Or would you want to list? Do you want to get into the species that you're?
No, I just think that they should be shade trees. That should be listed on it. It can't be an ornamental tree. It has to be a shade tree.
All of them?
The shade trees that are on there, 13 of them.
Just not the
Have to
red.
be shade trees.
Okay, so you could
No red
say
buds.
No red ones.
13 shade
at
trees.
least 13 of which shall be shade trees.
Okay.
And then of that number, of the 69 total, that 12 of those will be evergreens that are along the perimeter of the new lots to provide screening for those adjacent existing properties.
So whatever the remaining of the 40 minus the 13 would be evergreen. Did I do that right?
Well, I'm just trying to keep it simple that you've got 59.
Yeah.
You want to remove 30.
Add 40.
You're gonna plant 40, so you have 69, all of which Tom Committa has to approve.
Right. And of the 40.
And
Yep.
anyway, and at least 13 of those shall be shade trees.
13 of the 40. New 40. 13 is a new 40 goal being replaced. So the remaining would be evergreens.
Okay. And then, but out of that big batch of the 69, to try to effectuate the planning commission condition, you're gonna have 12 of that 69 number are gonna be evergreens that are along the perimeter.
More than that. So just.
It should be around 26.
It should be around 26.
Okay, I think I'm following, just trying to craft it as we move along.
Sure.
Isn't it 27 and 13?
Yeah,
Twice
27.
that is the math, yes.
Just checking. Like my head.
Right, so, well, not 26, but 27.
27.
27.
With me, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Does it make sense what we're asking for? Is it generally, like, is it accommodative? And, yeah,
The only thing I would add in your pool, just to make it more detailed, of those deciduous shade trees, 5 of them need to be the street trees shown here.
Are those existing or new?
No, these will be new. There's some that are existing, but we're planting these in between those.
Are there is that what they are, the existing maples?
I don't know that answer.
You know, spit match them.
You can keep going if you want, and I'll try to read this back at the end if and when the board is in the decision making mode after public.
That's a non-tree question. Ready? So
Are we done with trees?
We're done with trees.
Okay, so,
Hold on, I have some questions.
Sure.
Okay, and I'll make a general comment. I have only had 2 or 3 days to look at this. There's a lot of material. I still don't understand why in this township, I don't get it until 2 or 3 days before we have to vote on it. That makes no sense to me. I should have seen this a month ago or something. I don't know. Just a comment. So where's the request of the fee in lieu of? I didn't see it. I looked through the documents. I didn't see the actual request to the board to approve the fee in lieu of. Because we have to approve it. You don't just get it.
right, that is true.
So I believe in your packet there is a request for four waivers
It's not in there.
from, I'm sorry,
It's not in there.
I think it's a 1 page from the engineer.
Yes.
Right,
There
yeah, so
is,
it is.
yes, the applicant
Waiver
submitted a
towards the
late,
bottom.
and it's in the planning commission recommendation letter as well.
So I'm looking at the request for waivers. And it's the applicant requests a waiver to construct 2 adjacent driveways less than 10 feet apart. The applicant requests a waiver to grant and maintain existing double entry driveway. The applicant requests a partial waiver required to include existing trees and vegetation. The applicant requests a waiver, it required to count the existing trees. Those are, I don't see a applicant request for.
in Mr. Este's letter, he lists, that, on page 1 and 2, he has a list of the waivers that we're requesting. And he includes, to pay the fee in lieu of is number 4.
So ultimately, what I believe the planning commission determined to recommend to you was there's a waiver to give credit to 3 existing street trees. That's 274-42. There's the driveway width, which it sounds like will limit tree removal and locate the new houses as far away from the adjacent dwellings as feasible. And that's the construction standard A490-36G. Then there's a waiver that the planning commission recommends for A490-36A, which would allow that horseshoe driveway to remain. And then the planning commission recommends payment of a fee in lieu. I'm sorry, they request and recommend a waiver of fee in lieu for construction of sidewalk on the cartway. But they recommend that you still require to pay a fee in lieu of curb construction.
They let you know.
That's in the planning commission.
Right, I'm looking at time. says from section 400-41 curbs and sidewalks. Pay a fee in lieu of construction of sidewalk.
It becomes sort of a narrative if you look after the number 4. So on page 2, they're suggesting that there's a waiver of the fee in lieu for construction of site. That's number 4.
Right.
Then go 2 paragraphs down, although not a waiver issue, the applicant is required to pay a fee in lieu of curb construction. So
Right.
I would try to make that a little more linear in your decision document if you get that far.
Okay. That's about the one.
So I think the applicant, that if you understand that the PC recommended waiver of the fee in lieu for sidewalk, but they're requiring the payment of fee in lieu for curb.
Right.
Yes. Waiver from fee in lieu for sidewalk? I guess.
Yes.
Oh, no.
Yep, that's number 4 on page.
Oh, well, I don't agree with that. Okay.
I'm just trying to summarize
Yeah, fee in lieu of-
what the PC recommended.
Pay a fee in lieu of constructing sidewalks. Right. So. I didn't get that. So paragraph 4 says they don't have to pay the fee in lieu of for the sidewalk.
Correct,
Oh,
but later in the letter, they say they do have to pay it for the fee in lieu for the curb construction.
Okay.
And as I understand it, from the PC recommendation, I think, although I'm sure there are neighbors here who may have input on that, but if the purpose is to keep the cartway as low impact, I think part of those waivers are to keep it narrower and not a broad road. And I guess the PC was probably discussing with the public and the applicant whether you want sidewalks on what the other neighbors see as a quiet private road for their home.
Right. But we still require it to be in lieu of. If they don't want to build the sidewalks, great, but pay to be in lieu of.
And that's up to the
Yeah,
board.
okay. Is the house being demolished and replaced by 2 houses, or is the house being improved and a house added?
Demolished 2 houses.
Demolished 2 houses.
Yep.
So why do they have to be so close together? Like, you got 2 lots, they look pretty big.
It's less disturbance area. We tried to minimize.
You're asking like 10 feet, right? You want to be 10 feet. What's the requirement to be together? Is it 20 feet?
Well, this meets the requirements for everything except that one thing about the driveways being separated.
Yeah, right. I'm just saying, you've got such big lots. If the requirement is 10 to 20 feet and you're asking for a waiver at 10 feet, why not just put them 20 feet apart?
Well,
You've got
it
space.
minimized the amount of trees to take down, and it also minimizes.
That way you don't have to move the house this way.
And
You don't have to do all this disturbance and knock out more trees.
and lot
And then
one,
replace more trees.
the neighbors asked us not to move that any further to the left.
Yeah, the people over here don't want the house any closer.
Okay, but it's your house, your building.
Yeah, but we wanted to respect the neighbor's request.
Okay,
We were trying
so
to-
you're asking us to, I don't even know why we have a rule about how close sidewalks or driveways can be, but.
Well, that's why we have to ask for a waiver, you do.
Right, but we do. I
Most
like to keep-
progressive codes push for, I mean, there's a concept in progressive codes to push for consolidating driveways.
right.
They are consolidating a driveway.
Don't we allow houses to be together if they're like on zero lot lines, if the house is part of the, well, is against the line? Don't we have that?
I'm not sure. The trend, I mean, I think the trend in progressive codes is to not plop it in the middle and have a big long driveway to it, but sharing these kind of things.
Yeah, I just don't like handing out waivers left and right. So you didn't consider a 0 lot line?
A 0 lot line, I don't think the zoning
I think
ordinance
that's
allowed
probably in the
that.
village,
Oh,
Yeah.
I believe.
Yeah, because
Am I right,
there's,
Colin?
there's,
That's correct.
yeah,
So
there's
something
setbacks.
that's in the village where you've got denser housing,
Mhm.
some of your ordinances encourage or allow that 0 lot.
And what is this, R1?
Yes.
so it's a private road?
Yes.
Carpet. Do we care anything about it? Like, I know some of the things about it. Do we want to maintain, or do we don't plow it,
No, you don't.
right? So, okay, does it have any inlets on it?
Now, stormwater inlets, no,
Yeah, so where's stormwater going?
on the property, to the properties.
When it leaves the property, where's it going?
Well, I think, the only properties along are the properties along the carpet.
So there's no connection to our stormwater management.
So when it leaves, it follows the grade of the land, wherever the land is going. Yes, so
Hmm.
wherever nature puts it.
Which we had complaints about. So will anything new in this be dedicated to the township or is it all private?
It's all private.
Is it on public sewer? I think it is.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Did you get EDUs?
Yes.
I didn't see anything about that.
Yeah, that was, that should have been in our response prior to the planning commission meeting. We got it just before that.
Okay, so you've got the EDUs.
Yeah, we just haven't gone through the documentation until we went through this process.
Right, and how many EDUs do we have left? Anybody know? Are we like, is this Berlin?
We were talking about that at the EMA meeting and yeah, I remember it was 25 or something like that. I forget the exact number.
What's the impervious coverage first? This takes up first, what's allowed in that area?
I know that we're not asking for any.
I know you're not asking for variance, so I assume you're good. I just
Yeah.
wondering how close. Because what happens, what I've seen happen a number of times is people will buy a house with a 22% impervious coverage in a 23% area, and then want to put in a pool, and they come to us and ask for hardship. Well, actually, they go to the zoning hearing board and get a hardship, which doesn't seem like a hardship. So I hopefully you're not that close.
Is it 18% you're calling?
It's 18.5%
Yeah.
in the R1.
Yeah, I know we're under that. I don't know how far, or if we're right at it, but we're within that 18.5%.
We don't know how close it is.
It's probably one drawing.
No, but I'm within the ordinance,
Sorry.
but we are within the ordinance.
Okay, my question.
So you would asking for a fee in lieu for sidewalks?
I mean, we want sidewalks in the township. If you don't want to put them on your street, that's great, but we need sidewalks elsewhere.
I don't know if there was a mistake. We were planning on paying the
Yeah,
fee for sidewalks.
my impression when we left the planning commission meeting was we were paying the fee for the sidewalks.
And curb.
And
That would
curbs.
seem-
And the curbs.
Correct.
Then
Yeah.
we're good.
Yeah.
So curbs and sidewalks were good.
Yeah, we knew that coming in here. So, yeah, we're good.
Sounds much simpler now.
And the planning commission asked us to install 2 private driveway signs at the intersection of Cartway and Burnham-Fieldy Road, which is fine for us.
Yeah, that was a request of the neighbors. They go out.
And the last thing that they put on the last page is that the board consider the requested conditions of approval, which we found a little curious because we had gone over everything with the neighbors and the planning commission, which is how we ended up with that landscaping plan that we ended up with. And there are other things that they had asked about, construction, hours of operation, things like that. All of which is your ordinances have controls over all those things. So I don't know what else you really need to do to make any other conditions for that because your ordinances cover it.
And what do you have as a motion?
And first, you're gonna want to hear public comment too, but I do agree that a lot of what the PC attached, those neighbor comments. Not all of it, but quite a bit of it is organized and regulated by your normal ordinance. There are some issues involving a private road and repair and replacement, which if private road, I imagine there's an easement agreement with the other property owners.
Yeah, we already assured the neighbors that if there's any damage done, we would be repairing it.
Let me answer your question first. This private road was created by a plan that Yerkes did in the 1940s. And the deeds that everybody gets says it's subject to the easement for the road. And everybody's gonna pay the proportionate share cost of repair. There is no separate easement agreement written. The easement is in the plan itself.
But the applicant agrees it will do what
Repair any damage that we cause.
during the course of construction.
Yes.
Andy, do we need to, sometimes you get sucked into these things where this is, and I don't know that you want that. And what ends up happening is, you've got a room full of people trying to get you to get them to fix their house kind of thing.
Well,
Do I have any risk of that, Andy, with this, that
Well, if
Is
the
it-
applicant is saying that they'll repair any damage to the private road caused by construction, that's the condition they have to
it's
meet.
not making us a party to a private arrangement between other people?
When would labor,
Well-
like, what, is there
Well,
a date?
if you made that a condition of your approval, if the owner or developer refused to repair the road, you would potentially have enforcement over that because it's a condition of your
So
approval.
you'd have to just be comfortable with that.
What about that recent one where they just kept stringing us along? We're gonna fix it, we're gonna fix it, we're gonna fix it, and they never did, you know, I don't know if they did actually, but.
That's sort of the concern that I have,
Yeah.
when you
Why not?
become the,
Yeah.
when this is somebody's buying a house from somebody else. And somebody's mad at them, then you become the agent of one person in a private transaction against another. The choice of yours, you know, how much you wanna do that.
Well, I at least want a date of when they're gonna fix it.
Well, if I'm understanding you correctly.
Well, it's controlled by
you have to make
construction.
it a condition of approval.
30 days after construction completes, you're gonna fix it, you know, whatever
If
date
it's a
it is.
condition of approval, though, the concern I have is if it's a condition of approval,
Mhm.
they won't turn to them to fix it, they'll turn to us to fix it. And then we become the property manager for the project. You have to decide that that's what you want. I'm not sure it's the best way to do it. This is a private arrangement between people, they should fix it among themselves.
Right.
When you attach it as a condition, then you run the risk of, you are now party to it.
I don't think that's a good idea.
No,
So you're saying don't make it a condition?
Well, I'm saying you all make a decision and then scrub it through your attorney.
Well, the one thing you could do, if the board is interested in that, in a condition, you could have it that the applicant shall repair any damage caused to the private road by construction. Completion of such repair shall be a condition of final occupancy permit. In other words, the difficulty is, once you have people in there, what do you do? Do you start a lawsuit and you're chasing that money? But if it's a condition of the final occupancy permit,
For which house?
well,
That's the thing you bump into. You
yeah.
don't want to repair it before the second one's finished.
Yeah, and I think that's a fair point. It would be reasonable to make it the certificate of occupancy for the second house. The last house to receive an occupancy, the road's gotta be repaired before somebody can move in there. Sounds
You good with that?
Yeah.
That's fine.
That's fine.
does that sound reasonable if the board even wants to address that?
so I'm just reading that thing again, it says. The planning commission shall incorporate the following reasonable enforceable conditions, and that becomes, to your point. Enforceable by who, right? We don't want to get involved in
I think we're
enforcement,
expecting it to be enforced by you.
right?
That's what I'm communicating to.
Right, and it's a private road with private, we want you guys to work it out. We don't want to. It doesn't work well when we get involved.
So it's up to you, but if out of all of those, the question of the road status, if you wanted to include that, you could make it a condition of issuance of the final occupancy permit for the second house to be completed. So they can't inhabit the second house until that road is cleaned up.
We care. I feel like we don't want to get involved in that.
Just leave it up completely.
I think all these conditions, like the neighbor's road, most of them are things we have in laws anyway. Why would we add a list of things that we haven't thought about? What the unintended consequences are.
Well, I think you're regulating the construction. I mean, the policy question is yours. I would say out of everything on that list, the question of that road getting banged up when it's being built is closer to your bailiwick than the others.
Then we have to share. Yeah.
I think it is a possibility.
I don't know.
You're done.
Yeah. no,
So you're okay with adding in all these things?
Just, I think.
Yeah, just the one.
Oh, not all these things. We're gonna
That's up to you, but I'm saying on that one,
You will be called in to inspect the temporary fencing, and
Yeah.
if they don't like the temporary fencing, they're gonna come to us.
Right, but I'd rather have that done through our ordinance, not through, I don't want
Yeah,
to demo to
I'm
us.
just a little weary
Yeah.
of conditions attached
Yes.
to a private transaction.
So you let the road go, just say.
Well, the road is, somebody else owns the road, somebody's building a house and somebody's buying a house from them, like, so you don't involve yourself in private transactions between people all over the town. This is a private transaction, you don't own the road. So if somebody has a beef, they take their beef out with the people who damaged them. This runs the risk that now you become the one who decides if the road is damaged or if the temporary fence is adequate. You know, when the temporary fence is determined to be adequate. So I'm not saying you don't do it, I'm saying it's a choice on your part. That if you do it, what you're doing is you are becoming the agent of three people who are sharing a street with two other people.
Right.
Which you don't do in other areas. You do that when it's a public road because that's the nature of a public road. You don't do that for private roads.
This is Brady Flaherty, the township engineer. I would like to add that if you do take this approach, they're also going to have to provide escrow because that's the only way to actually enforce them fixing the road. So we would have to come up with some sort of an escrow amount to establish upfront so that we can draw down on that escrow later if the road isn't properly fixed.
Do you have any comment? Okay.
Yeah, I think we have good rules to cover a lot of this stuff. I don't see why we need to add a bunch of new ones.
Okay.
Like, it says something about replace within 2 years reasonable trees, like, we have rules about that. We don't want to add yet another layer on top of that. What's reasonable?
Okay.
Andy, we're probably already involved in that. When we approve a plan, that is one that tends to come our way if the trees fail.
yeah, clearly in a full-blown land development, but even with a 2-lot subdivision, I mean, we're normally gonna look at those installation requirements and how long they have to live. Colleen, am I on the right?
You are.
I've seen them.
Yeah.
And there will be escrow for that, so that's correct, that's one that.
They'll provide a cost estimate, yeah, and then we'll do, prior to final release, Tom Committa's office will do an inspection of all the trees. So if a tree dies during construction, they'll have to replace it. Or they don't get the final release of the escrow.
So I think it speaks to your point that there is a process in place for that.
Right.
New language just muddies it a little bit.
I think so.
Alex, Susan?
I'm good with that, not including it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Alex?
Yeah,
Okay,
okay.
great. All right. I think we get.
So if the board would like, I could outline a motion.
Sure.
And if there's a second, then you'd have discussion and any public comment or input prior to you finalizing their vote. Okay. All right, I'll try to keep it short. There was a lot of discussion. I won't keep it that short. I'll try to keep it shorter than it might otherwise be this time. So if the board feels like you're in a position to move forward, the motion could be to approve SD 545 subject to terms and conditions as follows. One is issuance of saldo waivers as follows. Waiver from section 274.42, the street trees to give a credit of 3 existing trees on the property. A waiver from A-490-36G, those are the construction standards. And that would allow the driveway for proposed lot 1 to be less than 10 feet from the proposed property line between lots 1 and 2. And the idea there is that the proposed lot 1 driveway will be approximately 2.5 feet from the side lot line. And that will limit tree removal and facilitate locating the new house as far away from the adjacent dwellings as feasible, the existing. You'd also have a waiver for section A 490-36K. That's construction standards as well, and that's to maintain the existing double entry, the horseshoe driveway on the proposed lot. And then I think after our discussion, there are only 3 waivers then. And then the applicant initially asked for a partial waiver from section 274-34. Buffer types, that's inapplicable according to the planning commission because that perimeter buffer is not required if you have a subdivision of less than 5 dwelling units. So they're not asking for that. We'll say that it's inapplicable if you want. But then you're also, we'll get to the other buffers that is. Yeah. So then we're through the waivers. I believe from the board's discussion, you would require the applicant to pay a fee in lieu of curb construction, and also a fee in lieu of sidewalk construction. And those are under 455 and 400 of the ordinance, zoning ordinance. We already discussed, I think everybody's on the same page that there's no fee in lieu for road widening because the carway is a private street, so you don't require road widening for private streets. And then on to the conditions based on your consulting letters, we would incorporate all of the consultant letters. That's the Carroll Engineering, the Bowman, Colleen's letter, also the Montreux zoning review letter, and I think we would include Tom Estes' analysis of March 31. And then the one that you discussed a bunch is how to incorporate the Tom Committa letter. And he last updated that on March 26th. I believe the planning commission suggested that his letter be qualified to make clear that the property is not a wooded lot or woodland, and therefore the comments in the TCA review are inapplicable to this subdivision. Tom's own final update agrees with that. So I think we could just reference that. But as to tree removal and replacement, that was most of your discussion. I think what is being asked, and the board can tell me whether this is what you want to do. I do think given the percentage of tree removal, even though there's a significant replacement, more than required, I think you have to reference 274-29B of the ordinance. And if the board did that, you could say, in order to approve tree removal per 274-29B, the following shall apply. There are 59 existing trees. 30 are to be removed per the proposal. At least 40 new trees shall be planted, 13 of which shall be shade trees, and 27 of which shall be am I right about that?
Evergreen.
27 of which shall be evergreen. I was writing so fast I can't even read my own language. 27 of which shall be evergreen plantings, including those along the side and rear perimeter of new lots to provide screening for adjacent properties. A final landscaping plan shall be submitted and subject to final review and approval by Tom Committa sections.
Yes.
That sounds like I captured it.
Good work, Andy.
Well, we'll see. I'm not, yeah. Another condition, the applicant shall install 2 private driveway signs at the intersection of the Cartway and Berwyn Paley Road Those are being locations approved by Bowman as your traffic engineer. And then I think the board feels like your existing ordinances cover a lot of the other discussion that we've had. And then we're down to your standard conditions. One is that the applicant complies with all of the plan reporting requirements, permitting and development documentation and approval. That was some of what you discussed on what's reviewed for plan recording and for permitting, with things like are the plants in place, are they living, et cetera. And that includes execution of any required financial security and development agreements. And those are approved by my office and your staff. The applicant reimburses the township for all outstanding fees and charges in processing and considering the application. And that includes legal engineering and consulting reviews. And then the nature and intensity of the application and the details of the project shall otherwise be consistent with all of the applicant exhibits in the package, materials and representations. And I think that would cover the field.
So moved.
Is there any public comment?
This is Tom Committa. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hey, Tom.
Hi, thank you. And thanks for a very thorough analysis. The last comment that we made in the March 26 review letter asked for the applicant to consider increasing by 30 inches, 2 feet, 6 inches, the location of the driveway so that the driveway on lot 1 would be at least 5 feet from the property line. So someone could put a trash can, a ladder, a fence, some shrubbery, especially if the neighbors didn't get along with one another on lot 1 and lot number 2. I asked for it twice. I was told the neighbors didn't want the house to move by 2 feet, 6 inches. We have gone through with such care and attention all of these various concerns. I hereby ask the applicant one last time to consider moving the driveway by 2 feet, 6 inches to create at least 5 feet of space between the driveway and the shared lot line with lot 2, so that, quote, something, if necessary, could be planted in that space, even though there are trees shown on lot 2. And if the applicant doesn't want to do that, at least 5 feet to put something so that the property owner doesn't have to walk sideways if they're walking along the property line.
So I think Tom's asking for some input from the applicant.
Right. We addressed this question. We had our engineer with us at the last planning commission meeting, and he addressed that. And the planning commission also heard that discussion as well at the last planning commission meeting. They did not ask us to do that. In fact, they asked us to take out the trees that we had proposed to put between those 2 driveways and spread them out elsewhere. And
That was the planning commission.
planning commission.
Yeah.
And a driveway is a driveway. I mean, I'm not so sure I understand what the problem here is, because there is space right here on lot 2 if somebody wants to put trees in. This neighbor here could do it. What we're looking at on lot 1 over here is a driveway. The guy doesn't have to walk sideways. He can walk down his driveway. I don't understand the comment why it's so critical, because moving anything, the way this is put together, increases impervious, it increases disturbance, it changes the configuration.
Yeah, I just wanted, with the care and attention that the board has exercised tonight, I wanted the board to just think about it and listen to the dialogue, so that if it doesn't change and they come back later and someone's complaining that there was too narrow a space in which to do anything on the edge of the driveway, then the board says, well, we asked the applicant to consider it, but they wouldn't do that.
Understood. Thank you, Tom.
The separation distance of the proposed driveways, according to your plan, is what?
So I think what he's talking about, it's not the distance between the driveways, just that there be more space along this driveway rather than up against the property line. But that would push everything over.
It looks like lot to the space next to the driveway is 15 feet. Am I reading this correctly?
I mean, between driveway to driveway?
No, from the driveway to the edge of the lot line for lot 2.
Lot 1 is 15 feet. Lot 2 is.
Which one is the left one?
Lot 2 is the right one.
I'm sorry, lot 2 is 15 feet. Lot 1 is about 2.5 feet. It looks like it's pointing an arrow there. That's correct.
What is the last revision date of that plan?
This was just before the planning commission meeting. Could you go to the landscaping?
The landscaping plan?
Yes, plan. But this was the plan that we had reviewed with the planning commission, which shows the trees that were requested. So at the first planning commission meeting.
No, just to keep it simple. So I think if the board is inclined to say the driveway can stay where it is. So Tom mentions that in his review, but if the board wants to let it where it is, I think in those Tom committed revisions as to what you're approving, you would say the driveway locations shall remain as shown on the plan last revised. Date what?
Looks like March.
3/18/26.
Yeah.
Thanks. Just so, because normally we say you have to satisfy these conditions, so if you want that to stay where it is, Tom raises a good point, you don't want ambiguity on how to resolve that later, so. If you wanted that, that would be part of the motion, that it would stay where it is.
So I guess I'm still confused by this. You've got 15, 16, 17.6 feet between the two driveways. And you chose to give 15 feet to one side and 2.5 feet. Why didn't you just put it right down the middle?
Because we have setbacks that we can't allow.
If you look at the property line, or the setback line, it pushes the house too much further that way. And again, we were trying to keep the houses. We didn't want to ask for, we wanted to, I think we were picking up some of the difference on this lot. But also trying to meet what the ordinance said, pick up some distance there. But also try and keep the properties from spreading too far out. Again, trying to protect the disturbance. That was a big piece of, as we laid out the site.
Do we have a rule against disturbance?
Well, I mean, you want to disturb as little land as
I
possible.
get that. I agree. So we don't have a rule against it.
Well, I mean, that was just our desire to disturb a little land.
But you could have met all of our rules and not require a waiver.
I guess we were just weighing what we thought was a more.
I'm not in development. I don't know. It just seems weird to me. It's just coming in at it like this.
Tom's consideration or Tom's recommendation can be part of that it was recommended and that they decided to move forward with it or not.
Well, so you're at the decision stage, so if your intent is to allow the driveway locations to stay where they are, your motion would remain the same, but in reference to Tom's review letter, we would add the caveat that the driveway location shall remain as shown on the March 18th plan. And that way everybody knows that it doesn't need to be moved, if that's what you want. I would agree. Yes.
How much disturbance are we talking about?
2 feet.
Just 2 feet.
Well, it's 2 feet over an area, turns into lots of square footage once you take everything and move it.
We're trying to keep the existing driveway there and attaching to it. So by doing that, we're
I
just
see
starting
the
to
driveway's already up, the
that
entire
horseshoe
driveway-
exists right now. Yeah,
So you don't wanna cut the driveway?
yeah, we're trying to stay with it to cut that down.
Alright, I changed my mind.
Yeah, all right, thank you.
I didn't know that the whole thing was there already,
Yeah.
not just a half circle was saying.
So why does it say proposed driveway that's already there? Doesn't say existing driveway.
Well, it kind of. Part of it is there, part of it would be changed. So. I think you just use the word proposed.
Are we all good with the proposed and set, motion second?
With the driveway location staying as is.
Yes, so moved. Wait a second.
Okay.
Is there any further public comment? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That's it.
Thank you very much. Thank you for
We
your
asked the applicant,
consideration.
because I've got a lot of notes, I'll try to turn around quickly, for the board, but, will you waive any timeline for issuance of the written decision?
Sure.
We won't take long, just in
Right.
case.
Okay, that's fine.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks.
Have a nice night. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you guys.
Appreciate it.
Moving on to 340 Chester Road, tree removal.
Yeah, Colin's gonna lead us through that one again also.
A couple months ago, sometime during the winter months, was brought to the township's attention that 340 Chester Road was removing a significant amount of trees on their property. By the time township representative got out there, all of the trees were removed besides maybe one or two along the street. The township, I contacted the property owner, let them know that they have to submit a permit, indicate how many trees were cut down. The property owner coordinated with the tree company, they provided this information, which was then turned over to our township landscape consultant, Tom Comita, for review and compliance with section 274. The applicant should be here,
Okay.
Brian over here, to explain the process, what was done, why it was done, and how it's, the replacement trees to be installed.
Sure. So I'm Brian Shu. I'm one of the owners of the property along with my wife. We created 340 Chester Road just to shield personal liability. We're not a builder, not a developer. There's an existing home on the lot built in 1960. Just one correction. We removed all of the trees. We didn't remove all the trees from the lot. We removed what's in this section, all these trees still remain. So when we bought the house in June of last year, the intent is for my in-laws to move into the home. That's who's gonna live there. As soon as we closed on the property, or prior to closing on the property, it was disclosed that a tree had fallen, a limb had fallen through the roof, and it needed a full roof replacement, which we did in July of last year. In addition to that, a tree fell on the neighbor's property also in July, in the backyard. We've had numerous neighbors complain about trees falling onto Berkeley Road, limbs falling onto Chester Road. We knew it was we live at 300 South Fairfield, so we actually anchor the corner of that sort of Chester road. So we walk by that property quite a bit with our dog. Again, we bought the property for my in-laws to live there. We're not knocking it down. We're not subdividing it. It's 2 acres. We hired Pro Tree as soon as we moved in, because of the trees that had fallen and the disclosure around the roof repair, to have an arborist look at the lot. We subsequently priced tree removal with multiple large tree companies, given the size of that work area. All of the arborists recommended sort of a full clearing of that section. Obviously, we didn't want to spend the costs. Quotes were in the $50,000 range. We walked it multiple times with them. They showed us where there were large cavities, limbs removed, dead limbs, very skinny trees, very top-heavy trees. To the extent that we were going to save trees, they were going to be very close to the home, which negated some of the purpose of creating more of a safe property. As you can see there, there's zero lawn, doesn't fit with the fabric of the rest of the community. literally zero mowable lot except for a very small area to the right side of the garage. So our intent at that time was to take the trees out. We asked the tree company who we selected, Pro Tree, if we needed to pull a permit, and the response at the time was that we didn't, because although it's considered a wooded lot, the response was that we weren't exceeding 25% of the wooded lot taken out. So we asked that, so we contracted with them in June of last year, June, July of last year, and asked them again in December. They requested that we perform the work in January to get some sort of winter discount. And so they ultimately performed the work in January. We asked them again in December, are they sure we didn't need a permit? The response was no. After the trees were removed, we understand that there were certain complaints from, I'm not sure who, about the level of tree removal in that area. So we had a tree report prepared, and it looks like we exceeded that 25% threshold. So the full wooded lot, so the whole lot is considered wooded, which is 65,331 square feet. The removal of that section, with the exception of two very large maples that are stitched out, the full removal was 19,240. The 25% allowable threshold was 16,332. And so we exceeded that threshold by 2,908 of that 25% of the wooded area that was permitted by the ordinance to be removed within a two acre above lot. The ordinance requires a tree replacement plan as a result of exceeding that threshold. And Tom weighed in on the analysis that the Pro Tree arborist, certified arborist, prepared after the tree replacement plan was requested by the township. We are required to put in one shade tree per 1,000 square feet beyond the 25% threshold, as well as 3 additional shade trees for every specimen tree 36 inches or above. Most of the trees that were removed were 8 to 10 inches in diameter. 2 to 3 were in the 20s. Nothing was over 30, except for one poplar whose trunk basically was a dead trunk that was 20 feet in height. Total trees removed were 51. We're keeping the 2 very large, call it historic trees on Berkeley. One's a sugar maple, one's a Norway maple. Again, they're accounted for in the stitches. 5 trees had hollow cavities, 5 were dead ashes, 10 leaned heavily into the power lines on Berkeley. 10 had major defects, and 30 were considered non-viable. After the report was prepared by our certified arborist at Pro Tree, Tom that's on the line reviewed it, and we are proposing to exceed the required level of tree replacements. We're proposing 13 cherry trees. We've already, and we're required to put in 6, so 3 for each 1,000 square feet we exceeded. So we exceeded it by 2,908. So we're putting 3 in, 1 for each 1,000 square foot exceeded. And then the one that was a larger diameter, we have to put in 3. So the ordinance requires us to put in 6 trees. We are proposing to put in 13 berry trees. And we've already put in 20 new shrubs. 10 shrubs counts as a tree. We're putting in we put in multiple evergreens. We're going to create multiple mulch beds. We're going to clean up the property, make it look a lot better than it currently does, as well as put in a grass lawn. The area that wasn't disturbed, so almost 2/3 of the property is still wooded and still consists of shade trees. We're not disturbing the wooded area that abuts the apartment or the condos to the right on Berkeley. And we're not disturbing the wooded area that's along Chester. And the property basically backs up to the property line. There's still multiple trees, a lot of dead trees, and a lot of trees that are still hanging over the house. But we were requested to stop. So what we are here doing is we're seeking a variance for the 22,908 square feet that we exceeded the allowable square footage, and we will be compliant with the Tom's report and the ordinance as far as the tree replacement.
And just on language, and I'm trying not to be overly particular, it's not a variance like a zoning variance, it's the ordinance says if there was the removal of greater than 25%. And as the owner acknowledges, that normally comes in through the front door, but that removal is subject to your approval. So if it's over 25%, that has to be okay with you. So that's why it's on your agenda. I would note, Brady Flaherty, our engineer, is on the line too. And I believe that if the board were to approve the tree replacement plan, that Brady feels that a drainage or grading permit should be issued, in part just to make sure that there are soil erosion control measures while that work's being done, so you don't have sediment going into the drainage in the streams. Yeah. And Brady's on the line.
Yeah, so additionally, beyond soil erosion control measures, the applicant's engineer is also going to need to demonstrate that post-development runoff isn't going to be greater than pre-development runoff by the changing of the ground from the wooded cover that it was before to whatever it ends up being. I know there's going to be tree replacement. I'm not sure if some of the previously wooded area is going to become grass. So until we have that information, we're not going to know for sure. But if there is that change, because they're over 5,000 square feet of earth disturbance, I think they're at 19,200 and change. That triggers the stormwater ordinance, that triggers the need for a drainage and grading permit. So at a minimum, they need soil erosion control measures to control sediment-laden runoff to make sure that doesn't leave the site. If there's any visible bare earth from the work previously done in January, then the soil erosion control measures are definitely needed, and I would suggest they go in immediately and not wait for a permit to be issued. But after the application is made for a drainage and grading permit, we can make the determination as to whether or not post-construction stormwater management is needed. That really means whether or not they need BMPs.
Can I speak to that? This is not I just want to be clear, we're not developing the property. It's an existing home. We're not disturbing the lot, and there's no, if you were to drive by it right now, you'd see that the lot is basically flat. There's no real grading work that needs to be done in that area.
Yeah, understood. When trees are removed in whole, meaning roots and all, which I believe was done here, that constitutes earth disturbance. I believe the earth or the report that I saw, the tree removal report, I believe said that there was 19,200 some square feet of earth disturbance. By definition, that requires a drainage permit because it's over 5,000 square feet.
You can imagine if you had a flash flood on that front yard, the dirt would be down the street.
Yeah, I mean, I can tell you, we've removed there's been no dirt down the street.
Right, but we haven't had a flash flood either.
Yeah.
So
I mean, the goal was to plant grass. If you were to drive out there right now, you would see that it's already been prepped. The lot's already been prepped for grass, and the idea was to put it in. And the trees, quite frankly, we're running up against the timeline here. If we don't get trees in the next 2 weeks, they don't want to plant them. The nurseries just don't want to plant them because they will die. So we were hoping to move quickly.
And so
the lot has been fully prepped for grass at this point.
So
the only thing that was brought in is topsoil. There was no fill or anything else that was needed to be brought in because the lot was already level.
Yeah. So what you just said with respect to the lot being prepped for grass and trees is an indicator that the site has been disturbed and the soil erosion control measures are necessary immediately to ensure the sediment-laden runoff doesn't leave the site. And that's a stormwater management ordinance requirement. And again, the work done did in fact trigger the stormwater management ordinance, even though it's not land development, even though it's not subdivision.
Okay.
and cherry trees aren't shade trees.
I was gonna ask the question, is there a listing of shade trees like that's maintained in there? And so there's like acceptable trees and that's one of them?
Yeah, our issue is the way the house sits, it's not a new development. So if we were to put the number of trees, shade trees in that area, I mean, we would virtually be putting the condition of the property back into a forest. 2/3 of the property is already still a forest. It's dark, it's damp, lots of dead trees. We have a lot of natural wildlife, which is great, birds, deer, you know, it's still a very unique property if you go down Chester Road. So what we are trying to do is establish more of a lawn, so it fits with all the other homes. I respectfully, there are 2 very large shade trees. If we plant multiple more shade trees, it's either gonna be closer to the house, which is more of a safety hazard, or it's gonna be on the road. We are not anti-tree. We live on 300 South Fairfield at the other corner. We have a lot of trees on that property. It's a very old 1900s mature property. We live here. We're not builders. We're not flipping the home.
Is the count, Andy, that they needed 6 to return to what they were before? 6 trees, and they would be willing to do 13?
I think they're already proposing 13.
Right,
So
so they
that's-
only have to do 6.
Correct, but their plan shows 13.
Right, so they could do 6 shade trees, and then if they wanted to do cherry trees with the other ones, because they're not obliged to be shade trees, they could do cherry trees.
Yeah, and I defer to Tom on that, and you're the expert more than I am on.
I'm just saying that could be a solution, that they could do 6 shade trees, and then the rest would be 7 cherry trees.
I'd rather not put in 6 and 7 respectfully. I would go
But you're
with 6.
obligated to put into 6.
6, yeah, we'd be repopulating too many trees in a very small area where we're trying to establish a yard.
You're only obliged to do 6, so you don't have to do cherry trees.
But my concern, as I mentioned earlier, is trees suck up water. You remove the trees. Lawn does not suck up water the way trees do. So we need to do something about the stormwater problem because you created potentially a stormwater problem.
Right.
That wasn't there before because the trees were sucking up the water.
But he's only obliged to do 6 according to the.
I think Brady,
Yes,
what
Brady.
you just said is that you're gonna require a drainage permit.
Right.
And if what Michael identified is true, you're gonna require stormwater management, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Yeah, so it's not really even Brady,
Yeah.
your code requires that, so.
Right.
That's independent of whatever
Yeah,
is
yeah.
planted. They'll have to meet the requirements of the code for stormwater.
Yes.
So is the board's proposal to change the mix?
I think if he's only obligated to do 6 shade trees, I would go with the 6 shade trees, that's my suggestion, and leave out the cherry trees. If that's all he's legally obliged to do, 6.
It is compliant, what he is proposing is compliant though, right? Tom Committa?
Yes.
Yeah.
So, Tom, I guess technically, your view is that the cherry trees are shade trees?
You know that they're compliant.
They're not compliant because they're not shade trees.
But I think the compliance involves shade tree, replacement of shade trees.
Right, shade trees, but they're
Right.
shade trees. And cherries aren't shade trees.
It says obligation 3 shade trees on 1 piece of paper. I don't know, that's what's the obligation is.
Right.
I'm reviewing,
Yeah.
I'm looking at the ordinance, and
Okay.
also Tom's review.
Does the ordinance specifically define shade tree and say, these are the
Yeah.
native species that count as a shade tree?
No, it doesn't. If we look at it, doesn't just say shade.
So it's just a nebulous thing that says shade
It's
tree.
everything not that nebulous. Shade tree is a specific category of trees.
I don't disagree, but, one person's cut off saying, 30 feet is big enough for a shade
There's a
tree.
specific
Yeah.
list.
Okay. Is it incorporated by reference? Do we know? Colleen, like, is it in the code or?
I don't know if it specifically lists the types of species or trees that would fall under shade tree. So like Susan and I reviewed the code prior to the meeting and the section 274 just indicates a shade tree.
Right.
Yeah, I agree, and I don't see it defined anywhere.
So
But it is defined horticulturally, it's defined.
Right.
I don't disagree, but I think it's, you know, if it's not necessarily defined, it leaves it up to being a little more nebulous,
It's
so.
not nebulous at all.
I think you just gotta.
You cannot plant a cherry tree as a shade tree, it's just not a shade tree.
But I think that's where Tom committed is saying, you know, 13 cherry trees is meeting the intent of the ordinance. I think that's the ambiguity there is
You
the.
can say that, I disagree.
So are we talking about? So it's all gonna be cherry trees, that's, and Susan's here saying she'd like it to be shade trees.
Shade trees, maples, oaks, all sorts of, you know, locusts, there's a lot of shade trees.
Is the applicant, able, I think part of what, at least one of our supervisors is suggesting is if you pick species that are more clearly shade trees, you might be able to plant less.
Yeah, I think what's difficult is again, the confined area in which, and I know it reads like we took out a lot of trees, but there are 2 large shade trees in that area. The rest of the property is wooded with a lot of shade trees. So if we could clear out more of the dead and replant viable shade trees, we would do that. But I don't think that the property is in the best state. I mean, we would change the mix. I think to your point, I don't think we would do 13 cherry, but we could commit to like 2, you know, maple trees or something in that area, and then mix in 4 cherry or something like that would be fine. This is not the end of the plan either. This is just what money can support at this time. We have plans to put a landscape bed at the corner of Chester and Berkeley. We want to put one closer to the house with like you know, an ornamental maple tree.
Shade trees are more expensive than ornamental trees.
No, I just mean we're planning on funding 13.
Right, 13, and I'm only asking for 6.
Yeah, and I'm just saying that 6 larger trees. Obviously, I'll probably be dead by the time they grow them. But I think
It's gonna be 2-inch caliber, 2-inch
Yeah.
caliber maple is probably even cheaper than 2-inch caliber ornamental tree.
yeah.
No price difference.
Understood.
If you drive down Lakeside, you'll see smaller lawns with big shade trees.
Yeah.
And going down Chester, when I went down, it is a large it is, I've seen the trees behind it, but in front of the house, it's just, I mean, you wiped out everything.
Right.
And that I think that is a significant change that's going to be, I mean, I know you want to put things in and you want to put the grass in, I don't disagree, but I do think you need to put in some kind of, as Susan's saying, something there that's going to compensate for the trees that you removed. We're not saying you have to put, you're only obligated to put so many in.
Yeah, I'm only trying to comply with the code, and obviously I'm here before the committee because Plant Pro Tree took out too many. We thought we were far exceeding by putting 13, so I'm a little bit taken aback by the discussion on the actual species of trees, but I think two of maples or 2 larger trees and 4 cherries we could commit to. Like I said, we've already put 20 shrubs in the front. We're putting holly in.
Shrubs are not shade trees.
No, but they count towards the ordinance. 10 count as 1 replaced tree.
Replace shade tree?
According to the ordinance, yes.
I didn't read that, did you? I didn't see anything about shrubs when we were looking through it.
A couple, the next page, it does say, yeah, so if you have I think, what is it, 10, you said?
I mean, we put in 30 shrubs in the front to the side. So to me, that's 3 trees. We put in a holly that's 14. We're going to be putting in a holly that's 14 foot on the anchor, the right side of the house. We are putting in a lot of trees, but I understand and respect the opinion that it looks barren. It looks barren to us. Like I said, we live at 300 South Fairfield. Very mature, very large trees, very historic home. We're not trying to be the outlier, and we're not subdividing it and putting in brand new homes. We're trying to make the home fit with the community and be safer, because it really was unsafe. you couldn't see the stop sign at Berkeley and Chester, and kids are constantly riding their bike through there, including our kids. Lots of dog walkers. But I respect the opinion of the board, and I think some of it is just over time too. You know, we're gonna put in a lot of trees. It's just this season, we're up against like a 2-week window where if we miss it, it would be probably next spring before we, according to Clark Brothers Nursery.
I think he's got a 2-week window. The planting season doesn't have a 2-week window.
Yeah.
Maybe your landscaper.
Well, he said we had to do it before the cherry bloom. You know, they've already bloomed from what I see, but I'm a homeowner.
Just wanted to be clear what's true and what's not. But your choice, your tree, if you want to vote.
So as a board, is there any discussion or any opinion on your side, Michael, Alex, that relates to Susan's?
I don't have enough expertise. I mean, a 30-foot tree is decent, not great. Like, I mean, you're talking oaks that are 50 feet, right, Susan, 60 feet or taller. I mean, those are giant shade trees. I just don't know enough about it to say.
30 trees are like 15 by 15.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, well, it says here that they grow to 20 to 30 feet in height. Once you get there. Yeah. So.
You know, and that's all dependent on what part of the country they grow in as well.
Sure. Yeah, that's why I'm not an expert, so I can't definitively say like, yes, these are shade trees. It's I just don't have enough expertise. That's why I'm asking, like, is there a list that's referenced? I don't know.
I got a list here. It doesn't reference it, but I got it.
Yeah, the other consideration is the power lines. When we spoke to the nurseries, just in terms of sizing, putting along the line, there is power lines along Berkeley and there's power lines along Chester. So we took that into consideration because of the way that they were kind of hovering over the power lines before. So this apparently is getting like right below it, so we're not disturbing the power lines.
Yeah, I would be fine with either the cherries or the shade trees. So I'm neutral on it. So I defer to
Susan, would a compromise of 3 shade trees and 3 cherries be a compromise?
I suppose I could do that.
What?
I just want strong word.
Well, that's gonna happen.
Yeah.
Well, that should happen.
Yeah.
I'm fine with that.
Eric, you on? Trying to get Eric right now. It's not easy.
He has.
Yeah,
There he
sorry,
is. Eric,
I'm here.
There you go.
do you have any opinion?
No, I don't feel very strongly about this issue at all. And
Okay.
personally, I think we're kind of interfering with somebody's use of their own property.
Good enough. With 3 and 3 be a compromise, Pete?
Can I ask a question with that?
Yep.
Do they have to be planted with the owner? Could they be anywhere on our property?
Susan. Yeah.
Where would you put them in the back?
The side?
Yeah.
I'm just asking. I haven't thought about it.
Ordinance says where you put them. You can put them anywhere.
Fair. Okay.
So, would the motion be, it's an approval subject to, I think, 2 terms and conditions. One is, if I'm hearing this right, the tree replacement plan shall be revised to show 3 shade trees and 3 Okami cherry trees. The applicant may also plant additional Okami cherry trees in its discretion, and that plan subject to Tom's okay. That would be condition 1. And then condition 2 is that approval is subject to submission by the property owner of the drainage/grading permit and immediate soil erosion control measures. So if that would be a motion, somebody could make it, there could be a second, and then we have.
Second.
Is there any public comment?
I just have, this is Tom Commit, I just have one comment. The ordinance requires the trees to be 2.5 inch minimum caliper. And so many sites that I've reviewed in the last couple of years, I measure the caliper with the caliper tape and they're like 2.25, 2 1/8. So I think the motion has to say an absolute minimum of 2.5-inch caliper at the time of planting.
So all trees minimum of 2.5-inch caliper at time of planting.
Per the ordinance, right?
Correct.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. I think we have motion on the table. Is there other public comment? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you very much. And typically, Colleen and her office will issue that. We'll finalize that language tomorrow. So you
Sure,
can get
that's
it.
perfect. Yeah. Absolutely.
Thank you. Except I don't my kids are staying. Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, moving on to the 2026 bond issue presentation for the underwriter.
Yeah, Colleen, will you set that up, the presentation? You're on, fellas. Sorry about that. Okay, Ed Murray from Stifel, we made a similar presentation to EMA probably 2 months ago. It's aligned to everything you've discussed at the various meetings here over the course of last year and a half. A little bit more detail because as we progress into it, there's a little more detail to consider. So Ed, I'll turn it over to you.
Sure. Do you all want copies or do you have it?
We got a presentation.
Okay, just.
Actually, my computer's gonna die. I'll take one if you don't mind. That would be helpful. Thank you very much.
So yes, as was stated, I did make this presentation to the board of the municipal authority last month. There's a bunch of pages in here. My intention is not to go through the whole thing with you, but just some select thing. I want you to take away just a couple of things. One, just a summary of the outstanding debt of both the municipal authority and the township. Second, the sources and uses, what we're trying to produce for you for the 2 projects. And then just show you some breakouts of the aggregate debt service. So with that being said, if you just turn to page 4, that would be the best. This is kind of a snapshot right now of both the township and the municipal authority's debt. Township's at the top, so there's only 2 outstanding pieces of debt. The 2024 note, which is the firehouse, that has a remaining amount of $3,125,000. You might recall one of the reasons that we wanted to do that was to get a very early call provision on it. And he did. We got a 2-year call provision on it. So in September 1, we can refund it. So technically a refunding, we can do 90 days in advance of that. So we can call those if they save. And right now they saves money. So we would, if you were so inclined, we would probably include that in the financing to refund the note and put it into this. The other one is a small piece of the 2012s that are still outstanding at very low rates. That's currently callable, but there's not much to do with it because again, it goes away in 2029. The other 2 are the sewer authority. These are guaranteed sewer authority loans. So these are NUA loans that the township guarantees. There's only 2 outstanding, sitting here, the 2020 and the 2019s. I did these with my partner, Mike Wolf. The combined, these were both refundings. The 2020 bonds refunded the 2012s, the 2013s, and the 2014s, and it saved $1.3 million at the time. 2019 saved another $269,000. So the total interest cost, as you can see there, there's no bonds in the sewer authority that's over 2%, I think. That was like right at the height of COVID. It hit the absolute bottom of interest rates. So they're fantastic loans at fantastically low interest rates. I wish we could get everything done at that low rate, but that's kind of where we're at. So that's kind of the current situation.
Page 5 is kind of our executive summary. What we're going to propose for the sewer authority is, instead of the sewer authority doing their own financing for their own project, which they need approximately like $4.5 million for. Because the township is considering its own financing, it would just be more efficient if the township borrowed all the money instead of two transactions taking place. Two sets of cost of issuance, two sets of fees, two sets of legal fees, everything would be duplicated. And since you're so close, we're advising that you just roll into one financing. It'll be a little bit different mechanistically. It'll get to the same point. We're going to ask them to deem the bonds as self-liquidating, meaning that they're going to say we charge rates and fees high enough to cover the debt service so that it will not appear, or it'll appear and then it'll come right off on your borrowing capacity or your debt statement.
Andy, are there any peculiarities between us and the EMA board that makes that hairy, or is it standard you'll be able to take?
Not really one way or the other, because even if the authority acted on its own, you would still have to approve that.
Still on us.
They wouldn't get financing without.
Yeah, it's not just approve it, we would have to.
Yeah, you guarantee it.
Yeah, we guarantee it, yeah, so there's no point in then.
It's the exact same, it's just a little bit different instruction. It's a little bit easier for the bond market to see it, they give it a little bit higher credit because you have general obligating taxing power instead of just the revenue and then the guarantee, it's like, right. So it's more efficient in this form. Now, it's always been separate, where they've had a project that might include Valley Forge, and you're not doing an issue, so they would do their own issue. And I'm not saying they won't go back to doing that. But this year, it's just more efficient and just easier to have it done in that capacity. So that's what we'll recommend it. On page 5 down there at the bottom, just in case you were wondering, I listed a whole bunch of municipalities that I worked with that have done the same thing, where we've issued general obligation guarantee bonds, and they're for sewer projects. And we know exactly how to do that. If you go to page 7, then this is kind of our estimated sources and uses of funds. This is what we're anticipating currently. But again, under uses, you see project fund. These are the numbers that the administration's given me. This is what we're working to produce. Everything, goes off of that. We haven't sold the bonds or structured them yet, so we don't know exactly how much that would be there, but we're trying to produce $15 million for the township and $4.5 million. And there's fees and cost of issuance and stuff of that nature. But generally, we're only going to issue as many bonds as we need to produce the project fund for both of those uses.
And that's gonna change marginally between now and when you do it, but only marginally.
Yeah.
And that's for estimates from 4 or 5 months ago.
So if you go to page 8, what we've done, page 8, 9, and 10, what I've done is just to show you a breakout. We've broken them out. Page 8 is the township's portion. So this is the debt service going out for, out to 2051, but I have all the debt service here for all 3 of the outstanding. So the 2012s, the 2024s, and this is just the township's portion of the total project. So if I was showing you, what do I think that your annual debt service is going to be, you can see it there for the series of 2026 township. So it's a little over $1 million per year. And then the other series of 12, series of 24, and then all the way over to the right on that chart, you can see the aggregate debt service. So again, it's pretty level. Obviously, you're adding the biggest piece with the township project. But ultimately, the aggregate debt service is something that should be manageable with the other 2 projects that are already budgeted for. So those are budgeted for. All that needs to be budgeted for is the new 2026 series. So page 9 is the exact same thing, but this is the authority's portion. We're going to ask the authority, they're going to have to come up with the annual debt service, so they need rates and charges to cover that debt service so that we can declare it as self-liquidating debt. and then it'll come right off the borrowing capacity. But the twenty
And that's
nineteen,
all, that's the rates that they have in place are reflect these amounts.
What rates are you assuming, please?
what?
What rates are you assuming, please, to scenario?
So the rates the sewer authority charges are already in place.
I'm sorry, the interest rate, like that.
We're estimating interest rates, so each year has a different interest rate. They're anywhere from about 4.65, well, 2.67 to 4.65 is the average interest rate. I can send you back a full debt service schedule. I was trying to aggregate everything so you can see it, and quite frankly, it's going to change. It changes every day.
Yeah.
It changes.
I'm just wondering, is it enough to call the 2024 note?
That's a 2%
Right now, so further back, I have a refunding study on the,
Okay.
I'll get to that for sure. So this is the authorities, but if you look at the authorities, once there's two in 2036, their debt service is gonna go down,
I don't want to interrupt you in the flow, but Alex was saying there's a 2% swing. You gave him the range of coupons, average interest rate all in on this. When you mix it all together, it's probably somewhere in the mid fours.
4 to 6 feet.
Okay.
Yeah, from 2 to, it's gonna be about 460, 470 total all in.
Okay. And we're assuming AA plus credit rating from S&P. Is that what our current rating is from S&P?
It is.
When were we re-rated? Was it after the EIT passed? Like in the last
Probably
2
after
years?
last borrow.
After the last borrow.
Which was when, 24?
20.
20, okay. So now we have an additional source of revenue. I don't know if that makes it any better or not from credit rating. That
I'm
materially
hoping.
impacts that, and then we get lower borrowing rates. Fingers crossed.
Townships have been getting upgrades that have earnings taxes. I did Willistown last year and then got upgraded. They have an earned income tax. We got East Whiteland. I did East Whiteland last year. They have an earned income tax. They got upgraded.
Okay.
It has, I have not been able to get Radnor Township upgraded from AA1. They don't have an earned income tax. So make that what you will, but it is a little bit different. So
Fingers crossed we get some good news then.
it would be nice.
Thank you.
On page 10, then is the refunding of the 2024 note. So here's the firehouse project. We can refund this. There's about 3,030,000 left to pay out. On the right-hand side, there's a sensitivity analysis. So in the middle there, it says current. So right now it saves $96,000. This is net of all fees. This is real to you. It'll be easier administratively because it'll just be rolled into this bond issue. So there won't be a payment to Webster Bank and this. So once we ship it over, it'll all just go into the township. But I put the sensitivity in there because if interest rates go up a quarter point, you see the extra savings. If it goes down or it goes up, you lose some. So that's kind of what it looks like. So we're hopeful that that'll be there and available when we're ready to go. I think after that, that's all the real important stuff I had to go through with you. There's a whole bunch of market stuff in the back. I don't need to bore you with this hour of the evening unless you want to talk about market dynamics of the municipal bond market. That can be a little bit dry. It's almost drier than shade trees.
So,
Mike's a good red button. Come on.
presumably you want to proceed with the refinancing of the 24 note. So that was sort of looking for direction on that tonight.
Consensus.
Yes.
Yeah, just a consensus. Like if the savings isn't there, we're just gonna pull it out. We kind of need your consent. Do you want us to start? Because it's way easier when we put everything in the documents. If the savings is not there, we just pull it out.
You can pull it out that day.
Almost to the day. Once I start telling investors and having investors, I would never that close, within 2 weeks.
Okay.
Hopefully where's consensus on the
Yeah,
board.
I like that.
And did you say that are the 2020 prime for refinancing also the authority bonds?
No, we can't touch those.
Okay.
They're
So
too low.
there's no refinancing in the
And the authority,
authority.
no,
So the only thing refinance is the note from 2024 for the firehouse.
correct.
Okay.
And 2020 was the last time we did financing for the EMA. There
Yes,
was something after that.
1920 and then 2023 is the bank loan for the firehouse.
Right.
okay, and then, so you're still, this isn't the first time this has come up. You've been talking about this for a long time. So everybody, this is sort of a go for him to start the work. It becomes tangible now. Timing is a little bit up. So you should have your audit completed by May. That's what they're telling us. It's all tentative. That would make this likely eligible as soon as June. You won't know Q5 EIT until the end of June. Some would say, hey, well, if you waited this long to borrow the money, why don't you wait another month? And then you'll know, you'll have a much firmer idea of Q5. It doesn't seem to impact anything from your end whatsoever. Doesn't impact the sewer side, doesn't impact the building side. So if you said, hey, July sounds great, then we would tentatively take that as the schedule. If you said, no, every month counts, we want this thing as soon as possible, we'd want to know that. And then presumably you'll look at it, like if you thought there was a disaster between June and July, you'd let us know and we would pivot, but not likely, no reason to predict disaster at this point.
No, I think everything that's in our control is in our control. Like, we know what the bond market looks like. We know, what's going on. By and large, what we don't control is inflation. And like we said,
And tweets.
if the Strait of Hormuz closes again and oil goes to 120, interest rates are going to go up. If there's a peace,
And we'll talk about that in a moment too. That's sort of the next item.
that's all.
Is that on the agenda? We're talking about trade room?
Well, I think that's part of why Tom is here.
You can solve it right here.
Yeah, So that's kind of where we come down. We know there's nothing. So one of the charts in the back that I won't bore you with, where there's a chart back there that has the Bloomberg index. So there's 30 economists. You've got the right one. It's got all the bars. And if you look at it right now, the federal funds rate is at 3.75, and they're predicting fourth quarter of 2026 at 3.37. So they're almost looking at 2 full rate cuts between now and the fourth quarter 2026. So the market, they think it's going to be there. The market thinks it's there. It's baked in. So right now, in these interest rates that we think we can get your bond issue done at, is baked in 2 rate cuts that haven't happened yet. And you can make some determination on your own. Do you really think that's going to happen or not happen, given the inflation that could or could not be in the system? Like, my opinion right now is if they 2 rate cuts are in it, I want to run as fast as possible, because
Didn't the dot chart show 1 for later this year from the Fed?
Bloomberg's got 2 now.
I thought the Fed's dot chart showed 1. Am I crazy? Yeah, okay, all right, I'll misremember.
Okay, so we're there.
There was a chance when the war happened, 4 days after the hostility happened. The chart at the bottom was actually plus 50 for the rate increase. Like, they started building in rate increases.
So
I'm agreeing with you. No,
the thing that's not in here is our ability to pay for this, right?
Yeah.
We need to see that.
So, EMA did this painstakingly last summer. And so, your rate this year and next year, this is embedded in that. So that's settled. I'm working on a 5-year projection that I'll bring through ECAC. But if you just sort of look at, it's basically a 1,018,000 as level debt service.
Yes.
And when you chose to put EIT in, not titrated, the EIT came in at full speed and real estate went back marginally. You created a very large revenue stream that went directly to pay as you go. So, for example, this year you've got 1.2 million, you've got $1.5 million for capital that is pay as you go, that just gets shifted to debt service. So next year you have other than that too, but those two are enough in and of themselves. In the capital, you're basically just shifting your two line items that were pay as you go that were, $1.4 million just get shifted down below and become debt service. So your total capital spending doesn't change. Just what changes is how it's, instead of being a direct purchase for capital, so that's a debt service. And then that is without the Q5, which should present itself as a very, very powerful, right now it's a safety valve because you're not budgeting for that at all. So presumably you'll have a strong sense of that, before you make the commitment to this.
Right, but the bar money doesn't include anything other than those specific things that would like the,
Correct.
right?
Yeah.
So that there are, if we were going to push things into debt service, we have to push them into there and add them.
Well, the things that are in there, so it includes the Newtown sewer, all this, or the Newtown sidewalk and all the sewer stuff.
Mhm.
So anything else becomes it's a zero sum game. You have to decide, so for example, the library stuff, you don't have cash to do that right now. If you decide to do that, you have to come up with the cash. You've got a tremendous amount of uncertainty with fire. That's there could be as much as 7 figures a year in there. And so you can do this and you're just swapping out, in your capital, you're swapping out the pay as you go for debt service. But this does tap the brakes on any other initiatives that you would have until you can make the zero sum choice to proceed. I hope that made sense.
From our standpoint, yes. I mean, the debt service from the investor standpoint, we don't need to wait for the fourth quarter. It's going to be a general obligation taxing power. If you need to get comfortable
that was
with
sort of for them.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
From us, no.
Yeah.
If it's important to you, then it's a pure policy decision.
It's like rolling the dice that, whether the interest rates go up or don't go up.
Unfortunately, the bond market, municipal bond market has been one of the most stable things. I've been doing this for 30 years.
Oh, that's good.
You can count on it, you can predict it, moves in the Fed, moves in the economy. But as Tom said, like now there's a tweet and we come in and the treasury market's off, 32 basis points and we're reloading, telling clients their debt service isn't $1,018,000, it's $1,046,000 because someone tweeted at 4 o'clock in the morning. So we don't predict that kind of, what we used to predict, what we thought we could control, we still control. I don't think anything in the economy leads me to believe that there's going to be a large scale decrease in interest rates. In the economy per se, well, there's been some bad numbers. I don't disagree with that. I don't think the Fed's in a position to do more than 2 cuts this year. So I think the interest rates that we see now, I feel more comfortable saying I'd rather go faster than slower related to I think the risk is to the upside on higher interest rates. And if you leave something on the table and they were marginally lower in October or November, I'd live with that.
Okay, so unless you tell us otherwise, we're gonna proceed with, it becomes one level more tangible. Your team is already assembled, you created that publicly, and you'll initiate that. And
Yeah, the next thing we'll do is we'll have back to you with financing timeline that will work back. And
So we won't wait till July, is that what you're saying?
well, I think you have to start now. If something changed, if you had a reason to come to us in June, you'd come to us in June. If you had a reason.
What we're gonna do is we're gonna work through May and we're gonna come to you in June to pass a parameters resolution in June. We're gonna sell the bonds like the week after that parameters resolution and then close the bond issue in July. Unless the audit is late or unless you say slow down, then we can just move back sequentially 1 month. You're always the 20th, 18th, 19th of the month. We'll just move back 1 month.
So
as long as you've passed the reimbursement resolution, so there's no reason for that. So we can move back a month and do it in July instead of a month.
So we'll be before you in June with a decision either to proceed or wait another month.
And the financing timeline will be creating the investor documents. We've already started most of that stuff. The team's in place, tax opinions. We got to get the ratings, get a rating call with S&P. We don't want to schedule that until after we have the new audit. So we can't schedule the rating call until after we have that. So maybe first week in June.
Okay, so this part is sort of settled. It's aligned to what nothing is new. Nothing from what Ed has presented is new. Nothing that you said is new. This is the next step in what's been a long process for you.
Last time I checked, the fires were winning 2-0. I'm sure you're not looking at that on your computer.
Didn't check it. I didn't check it right now. 3-0.
Don't ask, don't tell. And this, for your agenda purposes, this is really informational.
Yes.
Right now, your actual action will be the parameters resolution as a formal action. Okay. Because it is a public agenda item, I think you should see if there's any public comment.
Is there any public comment?
Just one question with respect to the library funding. Jim Martin, library trustee. Obviously, that's not included in this issue. Is there a scenario under which it could be if we determined, as you heard from Betsy earlier, we're not prepared, we're not to that point yet, but is there a scenario under which we would include it in this issuance, or if not, what would be the alternative?
My guess would be the timelines would just be too fast for this. Like you would have a lot more work to do between schematic design.
Absolutely.
There's construction documents and stuff.
And we have a fundraising feasibility study, as you heard about. So there's,
So we would need a lot more clarity before we would want to go out to get funding for something like that. And obviously a lot more discussions and children board. It probably just the timeline doesn't fit. I mean, everybody feels differently, let me know. But if we decide as a board to pursue that, it probably would be a bond issuance, and it probably would be on its own as an item for that. I mean, the numbers that we're looking at, 10, 15, $20 million, like, yeah, that would be its own bond issuance. Right.
Probably. And if you waited, then you run some risks of the sewer stuff, which does have some timelines.
Correct.
So it doesn't mean you can't separate them all and wait for the building, but the sewer stuff has some time specificity to it.
Yeah. But we've done sequential bonds before. I mean, as you've seen, there's 2019 issuance, 2020, there's 2024, and now we're doing 2026. So we're not opposed to going through it again if it makes sense.
And then this is also what we think we're doing with you is we're setting you up for level debt service, which gives you periodic opportunity to maintain the debt service and issue new, which is probably pretty sound. And so you do have, nearly 340,000 coming off the debt service in 4 years. So you have an opportunity to borrow without disturbing debt service as much as you would have otherwise thought. And you're gonna get presumably $100,000 off that debt service, right? If you refinance if you refinance the.
But that would just be one time.
Yeah.
Any other public comment? Okay. Awesome.
Thanks, Ed. Appreciate it.
Moving on to appointment of financial advisor.
Yeah, so 2 months ago, this came up at this board. We talked about whether this issue, which is larger and has some complexity that your previous ones did not have, whether it would be advisable to have a financial advisor who is an advisor to you during the process, slightly distinct from what the underwriter is, distinct from what the underwriter is. So you sent that to ECAC evaluated it. They made a recommendation that it's their opinion that it would be best for you to have a financial advisor. Tom is someone who has worked with you all in the past. He's got a record of doing this a few times, which is in his letter that he put to you. He's an Easttown resident. He's worked with me in this capacity here in Easttown. So, he, to me, is the candidate to proceed, particularly on the schedule that, we've identified. Now, that choice is yours, not mine. Tom put a proposal in. The proposal is public. You've seen it. The proposal was discussed at the ECAC meeting. So the thought would be that if you want to proceed with this, you would make an appointment. Tom is a candidate before you tonight. Clearly, if I didn't think that was a good idea, I wouldn't have arranged it that way. But that is your choice. And then I'll just let Tom tell you about the proposal and your work.
Yeah, and just real briefly, for professional services, it's completely up to the board. It's not a bidding process or a lowest dollar. It's about quality and your comfort.
I think I've been in front of most of you, I guess most recently when we were talking in public about the EIT. But the bulk of my business is advising municipalities on entering at the appropriate time the capital markets. Ed and I have known each other since 1991, so it's a small community. We all know each other. We probably golf together. He's much better than I am, a lot better. But what we do is we simply provide assurance that pricing is on the market. That we answer those questions that are coming up tonight. Is it better to wait? Is it better to go? Is it, what's going on with the marketplace right now? Are there any efficiencies we can do? Maybe, do we evaluate another rating agency or 2 rating agencies or those benefits? We have the same set of skills that Ed and his team do. We, for instance, run the funding numbers on the small piece that he did. Something like that, we might come to you and say, look, it might make sense to set a target for that. Those are the kind of little value adds we do. But mostly what we do is we work with the financing team at the time of the pricing of the bonds to make sure it's on market. And a small change in interest rate has a big financial impact. 0.01 equals $12,000. So a single basis point equates to $12,000. So we, as Ed pointed out, we've seen tremendous amounts of volatility in the marketplace this year and last year. Almost every day that we're in the market, we're just on pins and needles about what's going to happen. Last April during Liberation Day, I was in the market for the city of New York with $1 billion, and we went 50 basis points up and 50 basis points down. Okay. In a day. So we haven't seen that kind of volatility
in our
careers. We've seen it maybe a day or two around 9/11, around the financial crisis, but this is a regular thing. So what does that do for Easttown? Why should we do this? That's going through your heads right now. I think that the answer is you can never perfectly time the market. And Ed made a really good point, which is you need the money now. You're going to issue the money at reasonable interest rates. They're not as low as they were in 2020, but it's not the same marketplace and it's not the same economy as in 2020. But on the day that you're entering the marketplace, are you getting the best rates possible that day? And we can provide assurance and written assurance on that.
Yeah, that's really the fundamental difference. Tom's going to be your fiduciary. He's going to have a duty of care to you. I can't make that claim.
Yeah.
Right.
We have 2 separate letters that we have to send. Mine's called a G42. His is a G17. Mine says, "I'm your fiduciary. I have to put your interest ahead of mine, and I have to tell you if I have any conflicts ongoing." So that's really the fundamental difference. Also, we don't buy and own and sell bonds. That's his job. We can suggest, we can poke and prod and tell him, boy, last week you did this, and he'll say, oh, I forgot about that. You're right. But he's the one who's buying something.
And that's ultimately why I'm not your fiduciary. My rule says that I have to treat everyone in the marketplace fairly. So I have to treat the people buying the bonds fairly. I have to treat you fairly. I have to treat everyone fairly, so I can't be your fiduciary. I have the same goal Tom has until we price. I want to be as efficient as possible. I want the lowest interest rate as possible. I want to get you the proceeds and get you out of this process as soon as possible, as efficiently as I can. On the day I price, I can't say that I can be your fiduciary or have your best interest because I'm not allowed to. I have to say I have to treat everyone fairly. That's where Tom's very important. So he'll beat me up on every basis point when we go to price. And he'll yell at me and scream at me, and
I'm not a yellow screamer. I have other people in front to do that for me.
So then this becomes an action item for you tonight. If you want to proceed with the use of the financial advisor, some kind of motion to authorize the staff to execute the agreement.
Do you know any yellers and screamers?
No, I talked to both of them and they both indicated that like this isn't they're gonna work it out. So if correct, that's what you like, if they have a difference of opinion, they're gonna resolve the difference of opinion as professionals. So this isn't going to impede it. This is going to it's gonna enhance it. And to some degree, it's insurance for us. You know, we don't do this that much. It's the assurance that that we have someone involved, someone who does this all the time, looking out for your interests.
I think it's a good idea. There's gonna be a few of these in the next year or two, and maybe more, depending on the library. So yeah, I think
you want to bring something
makes a good idea.
Something to the board's attention that when ECAC said, yes, we should have the financial advisor, they also said they're not sure that we should be spending this much money. So the ECAC's going to discuss that and bring that to our attention.
I'll make a motion to appoint Thomas Beckett, managing director.
And his group, NW.
And his group, NW Financial Group, LLC. Second, do I have any public comment? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Ayes have it.
Thank you.
Thanks for waiting, fellas.
Nope, that's it.
These are very important.
All right, moving on to the Old Lancaster North Lakeside study.
Elaine, this one's you again.
Yeah, so in 2025 is the planning commission submitted their 2026 initiatives of the study of Old Lancaster Avenue and North Lakeside, right behind Casey's. That intersection was requested to be looked at and studied. Bowman has submitted a PSA. Chris Williams is here to answer any questions you may have. But we are looking for approval from the Board of Supervisors to move forward with the PSA. Also in the packet was a recommendation from the Planning Commission from their April meeting.
So you had budgeted some general money, not the 34.8 that's in the proposal. But other things have come in below budget, such that in what you had budgeted for sidewalks, and in general, you have the 34.8 budgeted.
I like the idea. I think it's one of the most dangerous places in the township.
Yeah, very good. Chris can speak to it if you need him to speak to it, if clearly the planning commission agreed with you. And then
listen to them.
Yeah, and then Chris, the deliverable is actionable things that can make it safe for vehicles and pedestrians, correct?
Yeah, it is. Very briefly, it's about a 5-month schedule. If authorized, we would look to accelerate the process and get started immediately because there is some overlap in terms of the area of Lakeside and Old Lancaster touching Route 30, where we do have the ongoing Complete Streets project with Route 30. So we would look to accelerate this process to try to catch up with the Route 30 project so that anything we do as part of Lakeside and Old Lancaster Road could be sort of recommended almost like as one complete solution package with anything we also do on Route 30. This,
I have a question, because I see two old Lancaster roads. Which one are we talking about?
so it's Old Lancaster Road, where it intersects Route 30 opposite Midland.
Okay,
And then-
there's one opposite Bridge Avenue.
Right, right. So it's the section behind Casey's and School of Rock, and then it goes all the way, where it loops back to Route 30. So again, this was a priority recommendation from the Planning Commission as a planning initiative for this year. We'd be looking at traffic flow on Old Lancaster Road and Lakeside, as well as each intersection on either side of the railroad overpass. We'd be looking at potential recommendations, right? Traffic flow changes, traffic control modifications on either side of the railroad overpass. The Planning Commission, even before they approached us, they've already kicked around the idea. So we'd be looking at one-way traffic flow on Old Lancaster or Lakeside. Restricting it to one way could create opportunities for more pedestrian improvements, more parking opportunities, that sort of thing. So we'll be looking at a range of potential solutions, working closely with the Planning Commission. We have a total of 3 check-in meetings with the Planning Commission that they'll be monitoring our progress, and we'll be getting constant feedback from them through the process. Ultimately, at the end of this, we would arrive at a preferred solution after we've evaluated alternatives. We would score the alternatives based on agreed upon set of criteria. And ultimately, we would arrive at a preferred solution with the endorsement of the Planning Commission, and then look to have that sort of integrated with the Complete Streets project.
Can you guys evaluate if not just turning it into one way, but actually making it pedestrian only for a stretch that's possible?
So we are going to brainstorm a list of potential alternatives for study, and then we've identified that we would evaluate within this scope. We would look going forward. We would look at a no build condition, right, which is keeping it the way it is today. But we would evaluate up to 3 potential alternatives. The Planning Commission would choose those 3. So it would certainly be totally up to them.
And the pedestrian component is as much a part as the traffic component.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. Correct.
Yeah, just asking if it's part of the consideration. It sounds
Yeah,
like
I mean, well, it can be, and between Colleen and myself, we'll remember that, and we'll certainly make that suggestion to the Planning Commission. It'll be up to them as to whether that's an alternative that they want to choose, that they want us to evaluate.
Thank you.
So that
Colleen, anything that, I'm sorry.
That concerns me, what you just said. We, the board, are planning this. It's our decision what goes on, not the Planning Commission. They can recommend things. They don't get to decide things. Right?
Correct.
So I'm worried about, because I heard that before with the Complete Streets project. It was, oh, we have to hear what the Planning Commission wants things to do to be. It's not their place to decide things, it's their place to recommend things.
We're also not required to accept the recommendation, and we can kick it back.
Right.
Have them.
And
What I worry about is not getting stuff that we should be getting.
so just the takeaway is they just have to be informed of this, which is very easy for you to do, right? So meaning that what I hear Michael saying is don't bring him a solution don't bring him in last for the solution, correct, Michael?
Correct.
Yeah, which is all very easy to do within this process, correct?
I think we'd have to maybe refine the scope and maybe include in the project scope, maybe some sort of a check-in with the supervisors at some point in the process, which we can do that.
Leave a recommendation for not voting proposal for traffic engineering services for Old Lancaster Road study.
I'll second.
Any public comment? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes have it.
Thank you. Let's start right away.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chris.
The 2026 PGA Municipal Police Cooperative Agreement.
Yeah, so you have ongoing assistance that you provide and they provide. You have agreements that protect each and both. As part of the PGA event, Newtown provided a sample document for our officers if they assist. And it's aligned to your current document, but it's marginally different. So mostly in the safe, harmless language. So, and that cuts both ways. So it provides you some protection that the current agreements don't have. It puts some on you that you don't have. So I don't think any of us have a strong opinion that it's better or worse. The rationale was that it's different and we can't accept difference. You know, only you can do that. So, the thought would be that if you find it acceptable, you would authorize us to execute the agreement. So Dave, add anything you want to add? Andy, add anything to that, please?
No, it's just basic, the agreement's different, but nothing we haven't done before for past events. We help them, they help us. It's what we're looking for. They just decided to change the wording on us.
The new piece is as to your fellow municipalities. You're not gonna go after them if they do something wrong in an incident, but they're not gonna go after you. Which with most municipalities, it's pretty rare that one force goes after another. I mean, that's what mutual aid is about. But they do say it in writing, it comes from a DUI manual from a state DA's association. But most of our local MOUs, for whatever reason, maybe because it's a little more cordial. In Chester County, we don't have that explicit language. So because it's in there, I think the staff and our feeling was it should come to you. It's not something that a manager or police chief would just administratively send.
Is there any other board on?
Yeah, so this only covers the time period, the event, right?
Yeah, strictly for the PGA.
It doesn't extend beyond that.
No.
And our officers are gonna be there to help. Is that under this agreement, or are they separately gonna go there as individuals?
No, they're going there representing us to help with whatever,
Under this,
security.
under this agreement.
Correct.
And are we gonna pay, it says something here about the PGA is paying are we gonna pay them whatever the PGA says, or are we gonna pay what we normally pay? Are they gonna get paid for this?
We do what we normally do, which is we're gonna pay the officers their contract rate, and then we'll send, I guess in this case, the PGA of them for reimbursement. I think we have 10 posts. It's not a lot.
I just don't know if the PGA pays more than we normally charge or pays less.
Yeah,
I wouldn't want the officers to get paid less than they.
The agreement says East Town will get paid for what your rate is for the officers.
Okay, is there any other board comment?
Do you need a motion from us?
Yes.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve the PGA agreement as written.
Second. Is there any public comment? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes have it. Okay, moving on to departmental reports.
I think we have, Don, don't we have
Yes.
an addendum?
Yeah.
To propose the action item. It would be in the item follow, if that's okay.
Yeah, to make a motion to add it to the agenda.
Yes, yeah, two parts. So part one would be the board wants to make a motion to add to the agenda. And as you probably know, it's really a belt and suspenders piece, but in all of your regular agreements, but specifically AFSCME, talks about the board or a delegate making a decision when a grievance hits level 3. In an abundance of caution, in order for the board to do that, and you do have an active grievance, it's a technical matter, but the board has to act on it. So the proposal would be that the board appoint, it can be any board member, but typically it would be the chair. So it would be to appoint Sean as the delegate to review and act upon the third step of this AFSCME grievance. But in order to think about that, you'd have to make a motion to add to the agenda this appointment of the BOS.
So I'll make a motion to add to the agenda tonight, appointment of a board supervisor chair for the AFSCME agreement.
And there's a second, is there
And I
discussion?
move to actually have Sean be the.
Not yet.
We're just not gonna add or not.
Yeah, is any public comment? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes have it.
Okay, so now it's on your agenda. Now the substantive motion would be to appoint Sean as your delegate for acting upon this third step of the AFSCME grievance, but also any grievance that comes before the township.
So, second.
Any public comment?
Sean, are you willing to do this? You're willing to do this?
It's totally. You gotta learn it, you gotta deal with it. All right, everybody's tired. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Departmental reports, is there any,
I do want to point one out to you. Joe put in his report that little piece of that AI proposal from the engineer, which we think is pretty exciting. So they'll do an inventory of all the roads. It's like Robocop, but you see the AI will then assess everything, do an inventory, score it, link it to our GIS, and then give us a map for displaying and decision making, and then also give us the capability to memorialize it. So we're gonna proceed. It's all under bidding thresholds. It's a professional service, and we're just using the general streets budget to do it. So unless you tell us otherwise, we're gonna proceed with that. But it should be pretty cool. We did discuss it at the Public Works, you know,
Yep.
and then in your packet, you had the images of it, so.
Right, I saw them over to the FPSAT. It's good.
Yeah, nice, very good.
okay, any other comments on departmental stuff? Okay, moving on to liaison work group reports, business association, I have no report, advisory, communication advisory board, Eric? Yeah, Eric's asleep. Eric, you there?
Sorry, I'm on my phone. It's about to die. What was
It's
that?
okay. Do you want any, do you have any report on the communication board?
No, they didn't meet this past month.
Okay. ECAC?
They met on April 20th. That would be, that seems wrong. That's the day. I don't know why, but April 20th, they met, and discussed with the advisor. They said yes, but we have some reservations about that, so they're gonna talk about that at their next meeting. We'll get that from them. We talked about the budget the investment policy. We're gonna get, that's making good progress. We're gonna get that. The budget transparency module is moving along. The staff is gonna look at it, and the ECAC will look at it, and then the board will look at it, and then we'll finally decide if we go public or go back on those stages. And we talked about doing a CRM type project to get one account per resident and stuff like that. We're gonna just start that off. We agreed to move forward on that.
Thank you.
I'm sure there were other things that I covered. Okay.
EMA?
EMA did not meet.
Environmental Advisory Council? There. Eric? EAC?
I think they meet later this week.
Good. Finance work group?
We meet
tomorrow.
Yeah.
Fire commission?
We met with we
just went over the processing of
hiring the fire chief, whatever they're gonna call him, the churn on that.
Nice. I was not at the HD meeting, but I understand it was just to review the RFP, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. The library. Check. Library, well, that was a special meeting. Basically, if you look in the library, there is some notes that Amber sent along to us. Also, just, you know, they got the Spark Lab up and running. They expanded the Leaper Literacy Initiative. The Needs Assessment Committee met with NSR. The endowment is doing well for the foundation. The Feds had their shredder event. There's an outreach at the YMCA. Did some policy review and approval. Let's see. There's a library appreciation. I think the patron appreciation event was Sunday, April 19th.
It's supposed to be postponed to Friday.
Okay. And then there's a library, is it a library appreciation month or week?
This week is National Library Week. Yeah.
Yes. And as I said, there's additional notes within the within the library trustees section of your portal. That moves on to Parks and Rec.
Parks and Rec had a very successful photo show yesterday. At in-house, whatever it's called. And they just went over some of the events for later on in the year, Go Roma and the 4th of July and that kind of thing.
Potential work group is their meeting's coming up. They're going to meet. You see,
talked about the cartway, some of the things that we actually reviewed tonight. And Old Lancaster, North Lakeside intersection study, that's also things, all the things that we talked about today.
Police work group.
We didn't have a meeting, but I showed up anyway. Had a great meeting with the chief. The best thing about it is everything is going well, like nothing to worry about.
Good news. Public Works.
Public Works, we met, again, I said April 20th, I don't know, April 9th, we met on April 9th. We talked about grants for the U-shaped corridor, the town sidewalk. We got the grant tonight, right, Lakeside, third.
Conestoga grant.
Yeah. So we'll try it again. That's the idea, right? Road maintenance, we talked about that, the plan, that's the AI paving thing. There's an issue was raised with signalization on Route 30. I actually like the way, where the bakery, Blaze Bakery, that one I think is working well now. It used to be horrible. But there've been a number of complaints about the other one, I don't know what like it.
Tires Plus.
Yeah, that one. And I know you guys said everything's good, but I thought the citizen who reported it had a notice from.
Citizen said it's broken.
But she had a notice from PennDOT that said they noticed it.
Yeah, so there were elements of it that were broken and repaired.
Okay.
And then there's an element of it that has it has a capability to communicate to PennDOT. It's not communicating to PennDOT, but that's not affecting the timing of it. It's just affecting its communication to PennDOT.
Okay, so once we get that fixed, then we can report back to the resident that.
Well, I think you report back, the resident isn't complaining that PennDOT is uninformed by the resident is dissatisfied by the turning movement, the sequence. And that's the ultimate zero sum. So, from the perspective of function and safety, it's fully functional. And hasn't been broken.
Right. We haven't talked about putting a turn lane in there, or a turn light in there, right?
Yeah, Brian thinks that Dave and I talked about it, so we're gonna get going with them and evaluate that. And if it's a good idea, we'll bring it to you.
Okay. Parks and Rec, you already talked about that. A lot of the meadows building, we're going over meadowing and stuff like that. Summer camp is well underway.
Nice. Stormwater management.
They did not have quorum, they did not meet.
Any further public comment?
The public is left.
Do want to have, it might only take a minute, but it's probably best for us to have a quick executive session regarding the grievance.
Okay, so it'll be executive.
It might only take a minute.
Regarding the grievance following the meeting. Upcoming meeting and events can be listed on the website. To adjourn.
So, second.
James saying,
One attendee from the public. Guest.